Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm Emily Moyer. Les Luthor is here with me. This is the Double Cross XX, whatever we're calling it, show number 8. Les has been out and about and stirring up all sorts of chaos, and doing whatever it is that I do. And we're down for our monthly chat. So glad you're all along to join us here. Les, welcome back. How are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, Emily. How are you? It feels like it's been a while, right?
It does. I mean, I think we did one last month, but I think like we did it either at the very beginning of October, so it's been like 6 weeks, or maybe it was the last week of September or something like that, right? So it's kind of our monthly chat, but it's definitely been, more like 6 or 7 weeks than 4 weeks for sure. So yeah, that last one was really good. I didn't know how it would be received, right? But I think people really liked it. And I have to tell you, I was sort of I don't know what the word to describe it, if it was like disoriented or like maybe just more stunned or aghast at like how you pointed out such an obvious thing to me about the Chatsworth thing, and I had never thought of that. Right. And it wasn't my usual, well, damn, I think I'm clever and someone thought of something before me. It was more like, how did I not see that? Right. And
Uh,
then it was very quickly followed up after I put it out with you pointing out how Jeff and I did this exhaustive description of Madonna's video and didn't see the double X just staring us right in the face.
yeah.
I felt like a double chump for a little bit, but that's all right. It's all good. It's good for us all to be chopped down to size every once in a while. But yeah, I mean, you have such a unique perspective on things that, like has now made its way into all of the things that I consider when I'm, forming my opinion on things. And so I enjoyed that chat, and I'm sure I will enjoy this one. I'm glad you're here. So
Yeah. You know how this surely this goes for everything and everyone. Sometimes we're all so focused on what we're looking at.
yeah.
We look right past the obvious. Right. And I'm talking about everything. Like even like the scientists of this world, right? And we saw this over the last 4 years, right? They just couldn't see the very obvious because they're so deep sometimes. And that's
Right.
all of us. It happens to me as well. I get humbled all the time over on my work where people just point out like a double cross. I miss double crosses all the time.
Yeah.
So, you know, spotting each other, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, so I don't know where you wanted to start. Do you want to start with the with my vacation or with yours?
Well, Emily, you lead the way. You lead the way.
Well, I guess we can kind of start with I spoke a little bit about it, but we did have this really interesting trip to Cabo San Lucas that sort of the illusion or whatever the fuck it was kind of started before we went, because about a week or 10 days before we went, it started to become clear that there was the possibility of a hurricane while we were
Mhm.
there. And so uh American Airlines had reached out to us basically saying that there was this, possible weather issue. And for right now, our flight looked like it was still going to happen, but they were offering us the opportunity to cancel and reschedule for like no fee or whatever, if we wanted to do that. Right.
Mhm.
So then we started looking. So that started this kind of scenario where I went looking into, well, can we cancel our trip and get our money back? Because we were going to stay at my dad's timeshare. So if we were to cancel, would he just get those points back, or could we reschedule it? Or so we did start to look a little bit into it. But as I started to look into it, like there was no moment when I thought we're not going, right? Like it all seemed like they were making a bigger deal of this than it was, probably. And
Mhm.
that I just, yeah. So at a certain point, we just decided, it looks like there is going to be something that they're going to call a hurricane. It seems like it's going to be pretty short and right at the beginning of our vacation. Right. And so, like, let's just go and, whatever it is, it needs to be. Either, it's illusion warfare and it's all nonsense, or for some reason we need to be in the eye of the storm, right? Like one or the other. So let's just go. And as it, sort of turned out, like the way we had scheduled our flight, like we were going to arrive before it started. So we would be able to get there and get sort of situated and comfortable, before the worst of it was we were arriving on Friday. The worst of it was supposed to be on the weekend. So we'd be able to get there, get situated, and then just relax for a couple of days and wait it out in the hotel room and then enjoy our vacation after that. Right. Which is basically, what happened. What the part that was kind of odd about it was that when we got there, we didn't realize, like, they told us, like, oh, this is a big deal because this is a desert and it almost never even rains here. So whenever there's even any rain, you see we have this terrible situation with the mud. Like the resort that we're staying at, it's kind of like on this hill, like that has this sort of almost like, I don't know what you would call, like ravine type of like dirt moat thing sort of around it. And once it starts to rain, the water gets high really fast, right? Like it was obviously not designed to deal with rain. So I didn't realize, you don't often think of a place that's right on the ocean as being a desert, but the woman who checked us into the hotel was explaining, they almost never get any kind of consequential rain. So anytime it rains, it's a big deal, right? And so this was a bigger deal because this was going to be more than just a regular rainstorm. So we checked in and we realized we had a couple of hours before it started raining. So we went out and had a nice lunch out in town and went to the grocery store and then kind of came back to hunker down. And the storm kind of came on cue. But what was so weird about it was how quiet it was. Like like the first night, like the 2 nights where it was like the biggest amount of like wind and rain and whatever, like we slept through the night. It was totally quiet. If you opened the window, you could see that there was a lot of wind and motion and rain outside, but it wasn't translating into it sounding like a storm. It was like dead silent in our room. So it was almost like we were in some kind of like holding box outside of space and time where we could see that there was something going on outside, but it didn't really seem to be affecting us other than that we weren't supposed to go outside. Right. So that was kind of interesting. And then, like at a certain point during the storm, like there started to be, the power going in and out. Like the hotel was on a generator. So even when the power went out, like basic electricity was still on, like, not secondary stuff. So power started to go in and out a little bit. And the internet, which is already weak there, was like surging and sometimes available and sometimes not. But during the entirety of said hurricane, we were never completely without power and never for more than an hour without internet. Right. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't really that big of a deal. Like it was like, okay, like we kind of had 2 days of our vacation where we couldn't enjoy the sun and the whatever, and then for the rest we couldn't really go on the beach because the water was so high. So we were kind of just mostly at the pool and things like that. But then weirdly, like right the next weekend, there was this unexpected hurricane in Acapulco that supposedly like basically destroyed Acapulco. Right. So like, they had made a very big deal about the one we were going into and not much happened. Everyone was warning us not to go or to be careful or whatever. Not much happened. And then this unexpected sudden hurricane, occurred somewhere else. So it was kind of surreal. And of course, there was a lot less people in Cabo because a lot of people did cancel their trips. So we got to kind of enjoy being able to, not have so many people there. Right. So anyway, I mean, that was kind of, I got to experience some of the like weather related illusion warfare kind of chaos that's currently going on. Right. And it was like, I can verify that there was a hurricane, there was a storm, but it wasn't what it was necessarily cracked up to be. And so much of any chaos that there was just really because they're not even used to getting rain there. So the city isn't built to deal with rain, as opposed to that there was some like horrific, weather condition that isn't experienced in other places.
So, should I jump in now?
Please, I'm done.
What what was the like internet world saying about where you were? Was it accurate to what you were seeing, or was it overblown, or did they just not really talk about it? Like, were they making out it was like the apocalypse?
So it was weird. It was weird. It was there wasn't like part of the reason I didn't feel worried about it was because there wasn't even that much internet buzz. You had to go looking for an article about it, right? But when you would read the article about it, it was kind of this weird mixed message of like, it looks like it could be pretty serious. If it's going to be serious, we think it would be serious during this time, but also we think it would be passed by. It was a very mixed message. Like there was no thing that made me feel like, yeah, we really shouldn't go there. It was kind of like, it was almost like they were trying to gin up concern and energy to create it. Like it would be fascinating if illusion warfare worked exactly the same for storms as it does for war.
Yeah. Oh,
right?
I'd say definitely. I'd say definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Right. And so it seemed like maybe they were testing the waters for the whatever was going to happen the next week in Acapulco. Right.
Yeah.
Maybe they were testing the waters to see, like, are people like going to go for this in this location? I don't know, but it seemed like this was an area where your belief about what might happen seemed to play into whether it happened or not. And we just decided we were going, and that it was going to be fine, and so it was.
Yeah, you took control over what you wanted to see, and you kind of said to yourself, "It's not going to be that bad," and so be it. That's what happened. But it's interesting that the Adjustment Bureau gave you the option to like not go, right, and forever live your life thinking that you dodged a hurricane, right? That's another thing I've noticed. Like through all my trips, they always give you they basically kind of Inception style put the idea in people's heads already, and then they either give them the option to not go, and like I said, they forever live their lives believing they dodged something, and then they'll just look at horrific images on the internet, will further back up their hypnosis, or they do go there and they're seeing things that aren't there because they've already had what they think they're going to see planted in their head.
Well, also, 100%. If I had arrived, let's just say for the sake of discussion, that I had arrived on Sunday, post whatever the worst part of the storm was, rather than on Friday, and I had seen on Friday already why it might be that there would be flooding because of how stupid this weird like ravine in front of the hotel thing was, right? If I had just arrived when water was already high, I would think, wow, this really flooded, instead of seeing what it was like. And of course, like that pathway, of course, any water that came was going to go there. Even if it was a small amount of water, it was going to look like there had been a lot of water, right? So if you take video of that at the height of the storm, it's going to look like, wow, this is crazy, right? But it's like, it would be like if I said that my apartment was flooded, but the way I proved to you my apartment was flooded by zooming in on the bathtub where you couldn't see the frame of the bathtub, and you just saw that, like, wow, there's a wall and the water is high against the wall.
Right.
That's what it was, right. Yeah.
A deceptive, untrue perception of reality, an illusion. Yeah, 100%. Have you seen my little logo now? My updated logo. If you zoom in, and I don't know if you can. But
this avatar right here, yes.
yeah, but if you look at the screen is showing the opposite of what's happening. Like on the two guys, one's chasing the other, but the screen is zoomed so far in, it looks like the other guy's chasing the other guy.
Yeah, it looks
and
like
that's
that. Yeah.
And that's, isn't that the media summed up right there? They're literally showing you a sliver of what's going on, and exactly what you just said. They're zooming in on a thing and making it exaggerated or way worse than it is, and you've just that exactly the same for weather, for wildfires, for warfare, for riots. It's all the same thing. It's never ever as bad as they say it is, ever. But I want to go a bit straight away to the woo-woo side of things, yeah. Anyway, wait. First you said ginned up. I've never heard that term, ginned up. I just straight away I'm thinking, jinn, the hidden ones, the plasma beings, right? The tricksters, the jinn. But what I've noticed lately, Emily, yeah, and I'm going to assume that you and Laura are real ones, right? And I've noticed this. I'm starting to track this over the last couple of years. Whenever I turn up to a new place unannounced, there doesn't seem to be many people there on day one.
We notice this when we go into restaurants, Liz. We'll go into a restaurant and there'll be almost no one there, like just us, maybe one or two other people in a restaurant or a shop, right? And within 5 minutes of us arriving, the place is full.
Right, here we go. Yeah, man. The Matrix has fired up some avatars, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know how long this has been going on for, definitely since 2020. But yeah, again, it seems like the Adjustment Bureau, whatever, the Matrix, the hidden hand is creating excuses every time why there isn't many people there. And now, whether they can control the weather or not, I reckon they can. I mean, I can't really prove that or not. But yeah, again, it creates the perfect kind of reason why you've gone somewhere and there's not many people there. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, as far as the weather control thing goes, like, I think the people who have considered we have controlled weather are all thinking about chemtrails and HARP and, like all of these like large kind of, operations and installations. Like very few people are thinking, oh, well, maybe we live in like a terrarium or a greenhouse and they've just turned the sprinklers on or off, right? And that's controlled with a computer system, just like the sprinklers at your house, right? And I went to several years back when I was visiting my sister in Boston. We took her son is obsessed with Legos, right? And we went to the Lego museum or the Legoland, and inside of there they have a theater, right? A movie theater that shows Lego movies, and it's one of those theaters that has like it's what's it called when you wear those little glasses, the IMAX, like the 3D. Right.
Yeah.
But also there's effects in the theater, right? So like you'll be sitting there watching and they'll make it feel windy, or there'll be some sprinkles that come down or whatever it is, right? And
that's called 4D. That's 4D cinema.
4D cinema. So that's what it is. And it's interesting the way it feels in relation to what we think normal wind or normal rain feels like, right? So it does feel different than what I would think of as normal rain or normal wind. Now that automatically presupposes that the thing that I experience outside of the theater is real rain or real wind. Which it may or may not be, like, but I've experienced rains and winds out in the quote unquote real world that feel different than my previous perception or memory of what rain or wind felt like at times as well, right? So I don't know if that means that we've somehow been switched into a totally controlled system. If like some days the roof is closed, like I don't know if any of my talks about tennis have led to the point where you've watched tennis at all, but one of the modern conversations that happens at every one of the big tournaments is, should they close the roof or not when there is weather, right? So at like the big tournaments, they usually one or two of the courts will be in a big enough arena that they've decided to create either a retractable roof or some sort of thing so that if there's weather, they don't lose their ticket sales, they can go on, right?
Yeah.
And then once that roof is available, then it seems like increasingly small issues about weather become reasons to close the roof. right? So then you've moved tennis from being a game that is mostly at the whims of the elements to one where you can control it, right? So then if the roof is closed, then there's now no wind. Even if, let's say, you closed the roof because it was going to rain, but you've also then changed the temperature, changed whether there's wind or not, changed the way the ball bounces based on the way if there's humidity or not, right? So you've gone from a relatively uncontrolled environment to a very controlled environment, you know, pretty quickly, even though it seems like not a lot has changed. So I don't know if we live in some kind of like open air stadium that has a retractable roof, and sometimes we're getting sprinklers, you know, and sometimes we're getting the real rain. Is the thing we think of as real rain just from like a higher ceiling that we're not aware is there because we can't see it? You know, I don't know. Like, it depends how many layers of the nesting doll we think we're in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, man.
I no longer spend that much time thinking about things like chemtrails and HARP and whatever. Like, to me, that is all at this point also propaganda to convince us that we live in a different layer of reality than we live in, right? Yeah. And so I'm much more to the idea that we live in a computer program simulation or an enclosed reality that has all of the effects of the Legoland 4D theater.
Yeah. Man, the old 4D cinema. 5D is when you put the VR goggles on, but that's 4D. I talk about that a lot. Is, you know, yeah, that's a big thing. And there's the 4D fully immersive experience, right? Even like, you just think of like the Walking Dead ride, you know, where you go in this kind of walk through experience, and there's like actors dressed up as zombies chasing you around. There's a burnt car, you know, and as you walk past the burnt car, your foot triggers the little infrared sensor, and a burst of flames will come out the burnt car. It's all 4D experience, right? And yeah, I'll say it. I think that happens a lot with wars, definitely with war zones that are, you know, being set up in the cities, right? But anyway, I've spoken about that enough. What was I going to say? Yeah, I've heard a lot of people lately claim that the wind feels very different. I mean, I haven't noticed it myself, but a lot of people saying the wind is like I heard someone describe it as like you know, the fan at the back of a PC, you know, trying to cool down the computer. I thought that's cool. Yeah. Like they're trying to cool down the matrix. And I heard your friend Michael the other day say, you know, from his experience, he could see that the matrix was jammed up. And you know, I think I reckon there's some truth to that, man. The matrix is kind of jammed up right now, and I think they're trying to rev the engine to blow it, to reset it. So yeah, there's, you know, definitely something to it. But whether unfortunately, I cannot illusion warfare report whether they're controlling the weather or not. Like, I don't have a flying machine that can take me up there, or in the middle of the ocean where they'd be doing it for them. It's one of them things I'll never be able to kind of debunk. So I also don't waste too much time on the chemtrails, ice wall, any of that kind of thing that I can never really. Yeah, I'll never be able to. You know, there's no point. I focus on what I can investigate. Which, funny enough, right now at the moment of this recording, over on our side of the pond, we've got Iceland is possibly going to erupt again with a volcano. Now, last time Iceland erupted with a volcano, allegedly the ash in the atmosphere was so bad, most of Europe had a lockdown on flights. I don't know if you remember, but I'm pretty sure this was way before the scamdemic, right? So yet again, you know, we all forget how many times they have actually locked us down when it suits them. So I might actually nip over to Iceland tomorrow and go and investigate whether they reckon that Iceland is cracking up, like giant cracks just appearing in some of the cities and that, and, you know, the volcano's about to blow. And I'll go and, I might go and have a look, see how real that is, and see if there's anything to it. Because, again, that's another thing. Yeah, you know, that's another thing they could easily just say, yeah, volcanoes happened in this little town where nobody lives in Iceland. Sorry, shut down around Europe and the UK is over for a week or two. Oh, well. The Adjustment Bureau, yet again, human trafficking stops us going anywhere.
Right. Well, that's also part of, like, that would be sort of, you know, one of the things you started to hear pretty early on, like in the COVID lockdown, was that, like, oh, this is going to be the pretext for climate lockdowns, right? So like a lockdown or grounding based on something like a volcano is sort of like halfway, right? It's like half disaster, half weather, right? People would think, oh, it's a volcano. It's something that is like actively happening. That's different than if they're just telling us we can't go outside because the temperatures and, we can't make greenhouse gas. So people will then accept that in a way that if they just said we're doing a climate lockdown, they wouldn't, right? So that is interesting. Have you seen that TV series called Katla?
No, I have not.
So Katla, it's interesting that I didn't know this was going on in Iceland, but it was a television series that we watched back when we lived in Los Angeles. So it was in 2020 or 2020. It was either in late 2020 or early 2021. We watched it, and it's about an ongoing it's like an ongoing explosive volcano on an ice shelf, kind of in this remote area of Iceland, right? And it was just a 1-season show. They always were it seemed like they were promising another season. Just recently I looked it up, and it doesn't look like there's going to be another season. So maybe it was just setting the groundwork for what you're talking about. But basically, this volcano that was exploding constantly erupting or slow, whatever it was, seemed to create the phenomenon known as changelings, right? Or doppelgangers. Like it was creating doubles of people. Sometimes when the person was dead and gone, supposedly, and sometimes, if I recall correctly, the person would supposedly still be alive, and like a second one would kind of show up simultaneously or whatever it was. It was actually a really good show. But it gets into some of the territory that you seem to be sort of approaching right now. Like there would be periods of times where people couldn't move around, or people couldn't approach this part of Iceland, or whatever it was. It was a good show. I think I looked this up a few weeks ago, and they said now it's not coming back. Katla season 2. Let me see if there's.
Was it actually made by people in Iceland, or was it American, or was it British? Was it?
It was my guess would be is it's like a combination between people in Iceland and Britain. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So let's see. No, the show. Okay, so basically, back in 2021, there was all sorts of information about an upcoming season 2, and there's tons and tons of information about it. And then at some point in 2022, there's some information that it was never renewed, even though people thought it was. But right now, the most recent thing I see is from July 23rd, 2023, and it says, well, apparently it's show is modeled after a book. So like so many people here, I reread the books. I just finished Night Sky on Prime. Thought it was a bit like what is this? Is this about Katla? This is talking about something else. I don't know what this is. This is talking about Night Sky. That's weird. I looked up Katla, and it's telling me about Night Sky, which is another one that I looked into that also got canceled. Another one that I watched. That's weird. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with Katla, but it does seem to me like a lot. Look at the expense that is spent on some of these TV series that just ever happen for one season. And then there's a lot of hype around them for a couple of years after that, because they're supposed to come back and then they never do. Like, is that part of the ginning up as well? Like, seed the idea, see how much brouhaha you can gin up about it, and then decide whether said brouhaha and and said ginning requires just another season of the show, or shall we bring this one into the theater of the real?
I don't know, but I'm getting knocked off my feet with this term "ginning up." Where has this come from, Emily? Have you used this before? Is it a new term?
It's an American term. No, it's a term that's used commonly in it's a common, it's something that would say. So ginning up, I'm not like, it's one of those, those figures of speech that you use just because they've always been used, and you realize, oh, I don't even know what the exact definition of it is, right? So I don't know if let's see if we can find an explanation of the history.
Yeah. Over here, we'd say G and up. G. It's just G, and it just means to, like, stir someone up, like, get them hyped up about something. G'ing up. But I don't know. It's just weird just saying gin because I don't know. Gin.
So
You're gin, right?
here's the quick explanation. The Oxford English Dictionary finds the phrase "gin her up" as far back as 1887 in U.S. slang. The meaning was to work things up, to make things hum, to make them work hard. This gin was based not on the drink, but on the ginning of cotton, the removal of seeds from the fluffy white stuff. So the cotton gin is a uniquely American thing because that's really tied into the lore of slavery and all of that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So, and then the etymology of it, let's just look at this. Let's see.
But obviously, right, the jinn, as in Islamic mythology, the deceivers, right?
Yes.
Right, and so it's just very fitting, isn't it? Like it fits in as that way, right? You're ginning someone up, you're deceiving someone up, you're getting them to participate in the illusion. I don't know. It's quite a cool word.
So there's one other possible explanation for it, in that they're relating it to another saying, which means to ginger something up, which means to add spice or pizzazz to it, so to make it more theatrical, right? Type of thing. But yeah, but those are good.
More theatrical, yeah. More theatrical, yeah.
Yeah.
Every time we speak, we're saying stuff. That's the beauty. That's the trickery of the English language, isn't it? It's just everything's got a double meaning. Everything's a spell. You're saying one thing when it could mean another thing, and all that stuff. But yeah, man. But sorry, I've knocked us off course. Where were we going with this?
So you were saying that we were talking about my trip to Mexico.
Iceland, right? So Iceland, yeah. And I've heard you talk about that show. It definitely sounds like something I need to look into, because I felt like that when I went to Odessa in Ukraine, man. I went to Odessa and I'm sitting there having a coffee, right? This is supposedly a place that's like moments away from being overrun by Russia, right? But everyone's out in the parks and having fun and stuff. And I'm seeing like doppelgangers of me walking around everywhere, more and more every day. Not exact doppelgangers, but like versions of me,
right?
Maybe like a slight different version of me. That one's a bit older. That one's got a bit of a tan. Okay, that one's got a bit of a belly on him, but it's just weird. And even in the hotel.
Are you talking about when you were in Ukraine?
Yeah, I went a second time, didn't I?
Yeah. Okay. I went the second time. Got ya.
Odessa. Like Odessa's like a port town, and I didn't really talk about this side of it much, but yeah, I noticed that. And weirdly enough, in the hotel I stayed in, there's only a fucking English guy in there, shaved head, beard, quite well built, wearing a black t-shirt, sits right opposite me in it's like a bit of a coffee shop at the bottom, this hotel. And I'm just thinking, what the fuck is it? This is just another version of me. But he was actually allegedly in Ukraine as a first aid teacher. I could tell he was ex-military, and he's obviously some sort of private contractor there. But anyway, I'm just like that. This is a different version of me from a different timeline where I signed up to the military and I went.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And so I've seen this kind of quite a lot. And yeah, man. Even lately, right? I've changed up my beard, right? I've started trimming my beard in a very, very unique way that I've never really seen anyone do. I go walk around the Matrix now. Every Tom, Dick, and Harry's got this exact fucking style beard now. I'm saying it's just so like it can get quite annoying sometimes. And yeah, and on this whole theme, the other day, my friend has just bought a flat in a place called Swansea in Wales, and she was at university. That's why she's moved down there. She had a very important day, and she asked me if I could just go house sit for her while she got all her stuff delivered, like a new bed, a new sofa, and all this kind of stuff. So I obviously, she messaged me the night before, and I turned up, and the delivery was not coming until the afternoon. So I'm walking around Swansea. There's not a soul there. Every shop is empty. Every restaurant is empty. Every cafe is empty. And I'm walking around like the harbour bit, right? Now this is the harbour, stacked up harborside apartments. There should be lots of wealthy people walking around with dogs and stuff. There should be university students on their way to uni. There should be kids going to school, mums taking their kids to school. The workers got there was nothing. And like I said, once the hours started going by and the Matrix fired up, more and more avatars started appearing, more and more. And yeah, yeah. And I've documented this quite a lot. Like when I first turned up to Poland that time, no one there. Once I stepped away from the movie set, no one there, like a ghost town. You know,
I think
and you,
Nish has a theory on this kind of thing, right? That like, and she relates it to like 6G, right? That somehow the environment or whatever's tracking everything has a grid for you based obviously most intensely on the places you most frequently go. But also once you've gone to somewhere, then it's part of this like personalized grid that has to be populated with things that you sort of will either expect or accept, right? And so the only way to experience any moments outside of that is by going someplace you've never gone, and preferably going there without really making an announcement that you're going there. So there's not been any preparation for your arrival, right? Just kind of like impromptu off-roading or with very little preparation made. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I like it, and I somewhat agree with it. Yeah, I think that's it. And anyone listening, you've got to go and test this out. You've got to arrive unannounced. Don't tell anyone. Especially don't write it on social media or anywhere. Don't book any tickets. Just randomly go there, and you'll see for yourselves. Once you get there unannounced, yeah, it's like you've jumped ahead of the programming, and it hasn't had time to fire up. Yeah, I agree. I've tested this out for many years now. That's why that's why I love the scamdemic days for me, because I had so much freedom to just go wherever I wanted, and I was doing this all around the UK. Now, obviously, again, they've already had the cover story, haven't they? Well, everyone's locked up indoors watching Netflix and ordering Deliveroo. But I don't know. I kind of, I don't know. I don't think that was it. I think that was just, there's obviously more to that story, right? There was obviously a massive kind of reprogramming of something of wherever we live in. And yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll get into it later. I mean, but, there's probably something like similar going on in the Middle East right now, and the whole war with Israel thing is a cover story, right? So yeah, I think this is right. Yeah, I mean, even the 5G towers. I mean, the way they were just springing up like mushrooms. Yeah, every day. I remember back in the 2020 days, I'd jump on the same motorway as I left my area to go to a new area to go explore. I would see like new 5G towers pop up overnight. Now I work in construction, and I know that realistically, something like that would take at least 2 months, and it would be kind of like evidence of it being built there, because where I live is quite countryside, so a lot of them are up on like hillsides and stuff, these 5G towers. So you'd obviously have to make some kind of a runway to get all the gear up there. You'd have to cut down trees and all this kind of stuff. There was no evidence of it whatsoever. They would just spring up overnight. Even that in itself is quite interesting. We don't really seem to talk about that much anymore. Over to you, Emily.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. So I think the thing that I was explaining about what Nish's idea and sort of what you had said, you arrive and then all this stuff starts to populate. Whatever this thing we're living in is, right? Like on some level, it's fantastic and brilliant. When I say fantastic, I don't mean I like it, but I mean is like, wow, it's like really impressive what it does. And then on the other hand, sometimes there's still like, this sloppiness about it, right? Where it's like, oh, like this, you caught this thing, or this doesn't make sense, or whatever it is. But it seems like so much of it is dependent upon your consciousness participating and interacting with it, right? So part of like, you may go someplace and the first time you go there, and like we said, there's no one there when you get there, and then as you're there it starts to populate, or when you go back the next time, suddenly there's like all this stuff there that wasn't there sort of before it. Like it, there has to be a baseline of how your consciousness interacts with an environment or a population or whatever for it to start running, right? Because you know, what you pay attention to in different locations, or what you're concerned with, or what you like or dislike or whatever, can't completely really be known until you sort of like arrive and start to develop your own baseline, what your own baseline for an experience, right? And so this balance between the projections, and I haven't listened to enough to know exactly sort of what she talks about, but I am going to be on your friend Human Vibrations show in a couple of weeks, right? And I know she talks about like rendering reality as we go, but like there's this sort of interaction between what your mind projects and creates, right, and what something outside of your mind is either projecting and creating or sending forth as the scaffolding for your projections, right? And where those two things meet, some degree of external reality bumping up against a person's internal reality, is going to be slightly different for each person. But how it maintains a cohesive enough space in between, so that like when you and I discuss both having been to Cabo San Lucas or Swansea or Odessa or Ukraine, we agree we've been to the same place, even if our opinions of it are very different. I like it, you hate it. I thought the people were one way, you thought was another way. But there's like certain elements about it that make it so that we can agree that we have both been to the same location, right? Whatever that interplay is, whoever or whatever is the designer or the sort of manages that, like that's quite impressive, right? And so then it's just like figuring out what, for an individual, what their role is in that, and how, what their participation level is, what the content of that is, and whether once they're aware of it, they want to continue or not, or whatever it is, right? So there's that. And then there was something
I picture in my head the Westworld kind of table, you know, they're all just standing around a Westworld table, and you know, a guest has kind of strolled into that into the bar, so then they now have to go send people over to that bar have happened, or a guest that then ended up in prison, so they have to make a prison break happen next to, you know, they have to set up a prison break narrative next to where that guest is, so he can now get out of prison, because he's not going to go to a theme park and just sit in prison all day, is he?
right.
You know, the hidden hand is overlooking the matrix, and this is what I'm saying. I think only the real ones bleep up on the map. As for the Westworld robots, I don't think they give a fuck what they see or do, or you know. So yeah, I only think it's when the real one turns. Like I've said, I'm honest in saying this. I don't think there's that many real ones here on wherever this place is. I mean, yeah. I'm talking less than 1,000, if I'm being honest.
Do you think there's hybrid beings, like people that are like some weird combination of real one and not real one, or everyone is either just a real one or not a real one?
I'd lean to the second one, but I'm open to that one. I don't see the logic.
I think I consider I don't know that I have a strong opinion either way per se, because I just try to consider all the different variations. The thing that makes me think that there's a possibility of hybrid type of being is just I've had some interactions that were so strange that the only explanation that I could give my limited brain at this point that makes it make any sense is something like that, right? Like there's some people that are obviously to me real. There's some people that are obviously to me like, you know, just some sort of program, something or other. But every once in a while you will have an interaction with someone. Like I remember this, I've talked about this on shows, but not for a long time. Like I had this interaction with this kid at a party one time, right? That felt to me at that time. And I don't know if I went back, if I had the same experience now, I don't know that I would perceive it the same way. And once you've told the story about it, it's kind of built into the cake. It almost felt like he was, like trying to become a human, right? Just based on his behavior and the things that he was asking me, and like how oddly close he got to me, right? But it didn't scare me or offend me or anything like that, right? And it was weird. It was like watching like this thing that like was supposed to have a life as a robot, but for some reason had become you know, like the whatever the programming was for him, it wasn't satisfactory, and there was curiosity beyond that, right? Or whatever it was, and he was sort of tinkering in that space. And then later, a few months later, I saw him at another party, and it seemed to me like the programming had kicked back in or taken fully over, right? And he didn't seem to have that lingering potential of like, oh, maybe this is transforming, right? It would be fascinating if we lived in a system where it pretty much was two things. There's real ones and not real ones, but for periods of time or under certain conditions, each not real one had the potential to become a real one, and each real one had the potential to devolve into a not real one. And we certainly see a lot of that, right? Like I think, there's definitely been, I think it's frustrations we've all experienced with like mates or friends or whatever that like we used to be super down with that just completely fell into programming, right? And some of them we can go, okay, I see how maybe like all along they were like that, and it just, there hadn't been a situation that come up to make it obvious yet. But then there's others that are more mystifying because of how, how your interactions with them used to be. So I do think there's like this other weird realm of like potentiality in both directions possibly, but I don't know, that could just be a story I'm telling myself to make myself feel better. I don't know why that would make me feel better, but
or the Agent Smith or the Adjustment Bureau just jumped into a into one of them just to get to chat to you, to learn off you. You know what I'm saying? Do you remember how it's visualized in the Matrix film, where if you were acting up as part of the, Matrix team who was in the Matrix, like a little old granny would start vibrating and shaking, and that would it. She would morph into Agent Smith. Maybe it isn't so as dramatic as that. Maybe they could just, like a jinn can just jump into a Westworld robot there and then and befriend you and help, either try and like learn about you, or maybe there's, not all jinns are bad. There might be good, because there's meant to be, different clans of jinn. Maybe a jinn's trying to help you and will jump into a body next to you and give you some clues, or be like something like that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. It's impossible to say, right?
I do know. I'm pretty sure there is an Adjustment Bureau though, and an Agent Smiths that are, standing in my way many a time. Maybe we'll talk about that later when we talk about my trip to Cyprus. But
I watched this video one time, and I've never been able to find it since, but I think about this when I'm thinking about like what you just said about like the 5G towers and how they go up overnight. Like that's pretty much been, I've never seen a 5G tower under construction, right? You've either just seen no 5G tower or a 5G tower, right? I've never seen somebody putting it together.
Right. I'll tell you what I did hear. I used to hear during them days, 2020, I'd hear a very large helicopter flying around the southwest where I live, southwest of England. Definitely a military sized, or one of them kind of, them big kind of crane sized helicopters.
Yeah.
And I had to bring it into a superficial answer. I think overnight they were dropping them in by helicopter, military operation style, that quickly. And a lot of people obviously just thought I'm going crazy, but that's the best explanation I can give to people about how they were appearing so quickly without any form. Like you said, you never. When have you ever seen a construction team? You know, you've got to lay a base, a concrete base on the top of a hill. That's at least four, trucks that have got to go up there and bring the concrete up there. So you'd at least have to, where I am, you'd have to cut. You'd have to take down a track in the forest for them to go up there. You'd see loads of people with high visors up there working on it. You'd have to build it in stages. It doesn't just come on the back of a truck that big. It'd have to, wet. No one's seen it.
Okay, so I watched this video once where some kind of magician or hypnotist or whatever hypnotized an entire room of people and got them to, like, basically they just froze in place, right? They were all there, like mid-movement, frozen. And I'm sure there was some bullshit to this illusion, but like the idea is interesting. The whole room is frozen in place. And he goes around and taps certain people. And once they're tapped, then they're back moving and everyone else is not, right? So I wonder, and this gets into like dark city kind of territory or something like that, if there's some type of technology that basically puts time to rest in a specific area. Like if you look the way that our cities are gridded out, right? Like, or maybe it's even the whole city. Like if you're basically able to push pause, right? Kind of in some ways similar to what Nish and Robert Hill and I were talking about in our last chat about opening spaces up outside of regular time, right? But if you're basically able to pause this neighborhood or this city, right, while you go in and do this, and then you hit play again, and the only thing that's been modified is that now there's this tower, right? And I don't know if that pause is like I don't know how long that is for, right? I wonder if there's that, but I also wonder if the way that they have set up these towers, these 1G, 2G, right, 3G, 4G, 5G, like if somehow they either affect or control the flow of time. And so when you're making this transition from one to the other, right, does that create like some sort of ripple that allows for some of that kind of stuff? Like if you go to a place like Cabo, right, where most of Cabo where we were is 3G, right? There's lots of places where you're not having data or Wi-Fi kind of thing, but in the places that there are, mostly it shows 3G. I saw 2 5G towers the whole time that I was there. I saw one downtown and like one in like some weird construction area like off to the side somewhere, but mostly you're dealing with 3G, and time does seem to go slower there on some level than places where there's all 5G. So like, I wonder if there's like kind of time corridors that have been created based on what kind of towers are where and how many and whatnot. And when a place is in transition from one to the other, is there sort of this ability to almost pause time until like you're into the next. You remember when you used to go to the movie theater and they had to switch reels, right? When the guy was back there with the film, right? And the idea was for him to try and create the most seamless switch over from one reel to the other possible, but sometimes you saw the break in the film.
Yep.
Kind of like that.
Yeah. I'm down for it.
Yeah.
Nish, I had a chat with Nish about this, and she rightly said perhaps they were there all along. Perhaps those 5G towers were there all along. And just like a hypnotist, when they can hypnotize people to not see someone.
Yep.
We were all hypnotized to not see these 5G towers, and for whatever reason, they've had to snap us out of that, and now we have to see them. Perhaps they were there all along.
Yeah, I think that's possible.
Back in the caveman times.
Well, you heard me talk about the weird thing with that I noticed, like my thoughts on trees based on that one weird experience that I had.
Yeah.
Like that, there's this one pole that I saw over in East Austin that it's an electric pole, like it's those old school electric poles that they're like wood the base and then they have wires up top, right? But so much foliage has grown on it that it almost looks like a tree.
Yeah.
Right. So it's entirely possible that, like, when we think, oh, it's like a shame they chopped down that orchard of trees and they put a 5G tower there. Well, maybe that orchard was just hiding the 5G tower before. And they decided they want us to see it now.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. All possible. Can I just tell you a quick story? I've never got to tell anyone. I want to tell someone.
Yes.
When back to Odessa, right? When I came back from Odessa, okay, on the train, uh, there over there it's the overnight trains. So it's four people in a little section, and then when it gets dark, your chair folds down, so it's a bed. So it's like a double decker bed type thing. So I'm in because I'm traveling alone. They put me with like some other one who they fitted me in with like it was a lady and she was with a young daughter. So obviously when it gets dark, the guy comes around who works for the train. All that we've got to close all the windows, in case of Russian snipers. Bullshit, right? Trying to make you participate in the game. So anyway, he's going around making sure everyone's closed their shutters right over the window, so you can't see out. Well, anyway, everyone was pretty much asleep. The mum was asleep. This little girl was awake, and she opened it. And luckily, the guy had stopped kind of like patrolling, making sure everyone had done this right. I saw the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen. Our train went through some futuristic type, like it's like a Stargate or something. It was these like silver claws that were going up around, say, as you're transiting through it, right? Like a skeleton, like a rib cage almost, with these silver things. I don't know what they were. And they had these really bright lights shining from them. And I think they were like the the neuralizer from Men in Black. The thing the little penny's got, and he goes, right,
Yes.
and he flashes
Yes.
a new memory in. I'm pretty sure we just went through a massive machine of that got everyone on the train. Bar me, I'm gonna kind of say hopefully it didn't get me, because I obviously came out of Ukraine with a very different story to what everyone else was seeing. But I've never ever in my life ever seen such a weird, freaky fucking. I just can't. I wish I could draw it for you, really, but yeah, can you picture what I'm saying? It's kind of like these two posts either side with like these really weird kind of LED lights coming from all around it, and we went through it really slow. And because she had the window open, I'm just seeing this whoa, flashing of strobe lighting coming through this gap. So yeah, man, what's that about?
Did you notice anything else about this little girl while you guys were on the train?
She handed me a sweet that was made of a panda, like a panda sweet. Mm-hmm. So it's like two little chocolate balls, but where the packaging was around it, it made it look like a panda. Mm-hmm. At the time, my friend Rambo, who does a show with Human Vibration, was pretty much on the whole thing of animals being fake, and all the videos of pandas are actually people in suits. Mm-hmm. And I don't know. For me, it's very symbolic. The black and white panda is very symbolic of false reality. And so it's just weird. This little girl just pulled this out of her pocket and handed me this, because at a time, all three of us were mainly Rambo, but we're all talking about animals being fake, and basically the panda being the main culprit of the fake whole. The WWF, the World Wildlife Foundation. It's their logo, black and white. Masonry. They're just funneling money, blah blah blah. So I just weird, this little stereotypical cute blonde blue-eyed girl just handing me this, and yeah, it's weird. Go on. So what you thinking?
Well, it's like, I mean, I wonder, like, that is interesting. Did the suite come before the curtain? She lifted the curtain, or after?
Before, yeah. Literally, as I joined them in the little carriage thing. By the way, they were my ticket out of there, right? When the the military, because when you're leaving Ukraine and entering Ukraine, you've got border patrol, you've got undercover police that come and check your passport and check who you are. You've got The military, about 4 different organizations come and check your passport. They want to know who the fuck is going in and out of that country. Because I was sat with them, they assumed I was like with them, like I was that girl's partner. So instead of just being a lonely kind of English guy, like who the fuck is this guy? It looked like I was part of them, and that helped me get out with no trouble.
I mean that it's the kind of was the little girl there helping you to see the illusion, or was the little girl part of creating the illusion, right? That is interesting that she gave you the candy, right? So what you're describing sounds like
it was very, Emily, it was very kind of like, how can I say it? Like surreal, cartoon, not cartoonish. It was just the way I sat in the car, I sat down, and she just stared up at me and just handed me this sweet, like something out of it's like out of a film.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, and then she pulled this really upset face, and okay, and I took it, and didn't want to upset the little girl, and yeah, I don't know, it's very surreal.
When she lifted the curtain, did she like lift it to look outside? Did she just accidentally brush up against it? What was the?
She deliberately lifted it up
and looked out.
Because her mum was asleep, like facing the wall, and this little girl was just up, like clutching her teddy bear, just kind of just peeking under, and then she just lifted it up about halfway. And because I was on a top bunk on the other side, I could kind of see down. I could see the curve of this weird machinery, whatever it was, this row of neuralizers.
Okay, so there's a couple of it makes me think about a couple of possibilities, right? So, if you've ever been on a stage set, right? Like if you've been in a movie or on a TV show, or you've been to the film set of a movie or a TV show, in between what is considered backstage or offstage or offset, and where the part where that it is they're filming that's considered the set is, there's a lot of scaffolding with lights on it, right? That are sort of framing the area, right? So like it literally, like, and one way that you can experience this in a ride type of scenario is at Universal Studios, right? Universal Studios is a theme park in Los Angeles that is right where the studios are, where they film movies, right? So it's kind of a way that people can go and experience like how these movies are made, how they use special effects and stage design to create something that looks and feels real, and you can ride around inside of it. It's not the actual stage set that they use to do the movies. They create like replicas that are turned into sort of themed rides. But I haven't been there since I was little, but I recall from when I was little, right, that part of the attraction or part of the ride, because the rides aren't like thrilling or scary in the sense of like they don't have like hills and twists and turns like rides at Magic Mountain or Disneyland does. It's more of this just sense of moving through some adventure scene, right? But there's this place where there's this kind of clear delineation of like where you're leaving the sort of onboarding or the setup place and moving into what the experience is supposed to be. And that thing that creates that feeling is that you are, you can see sort of this frame or this scaffolding. And then once you're inside of it, you either can't see it anymore or you forget it's there because the other activity takes your attention, right? So I'm thinking about that is one thing I'm thinking about, right? That like maybe there was like literally you were moving into the park, right? And there was this very clear delineation and, between the stage set and what was not the stage set. And then the other thing I'm thinking about is, and I tried to bring this up with Jeff, and I think he missed my point during the dump, right? I think that he, for some reason, he thought suddenly I was like part of trying to convince everybody that like UFOs and things like that are real. I don't know, right? There's this sudden reemergence of the MH370 narrative story, right? This guy's making the circuit, talking about it and showing some evidence and whatever, and the evidence that he's showing and what he's talking about completely matches up almost 100% exactly to the narrative behind the TV show Manifest, right? But basically, it's this idea that something is moving through, something is moving through an area, whether it be on a plane or on a train, right? And it suddenly has this like sort of energetic thing that it comes into, sort of that passes through, that has like some sound and some light or some flashing or whatever. And then after that, on this MH370 satellite video, the plane is gone, right? The plane doesn't get blown up or destroyed. It is there and then it is gone. So theoretically, the idea being that now the plane is somewhere else. And the only question is like, do the people on the plane realize there's someone else, where they're somewhere else? Do they not know? How did they experience that? Right. And in the show Manifest, basically, you know, over the course of the 5 seasons of the show, you see that they went through this sort of like high energy kind of fusion event that basically, you know, took them to this light shining place sort of outside of time for, you know, 5 years, where they were sort of experiencing reality in one way, but then at the end of it, when it was resolved, they were kind of like dropped back into regular linear time, and only the people who had been on the plane realized that 5 years had gone by and everyone else was still in regular, you know, everything had gone the way it was supposed to have gone. If the plane hadn't disappeared, nobody knew, right? So it's basically for all, you know, it's almost like you went through something like that, whether that be you moved on to a stage set or like you literally moved into an actual, so it's either a simulated reality or an actual other real reality. Like you did go through a portal, right? Or you went from not being on a stage set to being on a stage set, or vice versa. Those are like the 2 different ways that I'm sort of looking at it. And either way, you know, machinery and lights and you know, whatever could be part of that, right? The fact that was everybody else asleep, or was everybody else awake but just not looking?
Oh, everyone was asleep.
Everyone was asleep. So just the 2 of you. How symbolic is that? Just the 2 of you awake.
Yeah.
But you know, when you go on an airplane, sometimes they tell you to pull the shades down too.
Oh yeah. Exactly. But you got to remember the layout of this train is that you're in this little kind of like section. It's just, you know what I mean? It's for 4 people. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what anyone else in their other little sections were doing.
Right.
But I imagine that, you know, there's a certain time they fold the beds down and they give out the bedding, right? So you can't just sit up, and you kind of have to go on your bed, because that's how it is, you know. The fact they're making you go to sleep. And yeah, man. I'm glad I got to tell you that story. And yeah, exactly.
Maybe the candy was what kept you awake, right? Maybe there's almost a vibration or a scent or something that gets sent through the cars that sort of puts everybody in this receptive idea to going to sleep, right? And the little girl wanted you to stay up with her. And so when you didn't take the candy, she was disappointed, and then you took it, so she was happy. Did you eat the candy?
I ate it. Yeah. I mean, I kept the. I don't know what I've done with the wrapper now, but I kept the wrapper in addition. Tell Human Vibration and Rambo the story of the panda suite. And yeah, man, because it was, you know, your bollocks are kind of in your mouth when you're leaving that country, because the first time I left it, yeah, man, I got surrounded by about 13 guys with masks on and guns, you know, asking me who I am and where I'm going. In Kiev, we have to swap over a train in Kiev. and it's a very lot. That country is a very you haven't got to get the worry is not getting blown up by Russian bombs and bullets. It's being caught by the Adjustment Bureau, and
Right.
that's the actual dangerous part of it. Anyway, like even if you were getting to the current center of bullshit right now, Israel and Palestine, like that's the worry. Is there is a worry of that.
Real
So
quickly,
obviously,
real quickly before we move on to that, I want to say one more thing about pandas.
yeah,
So, are you familiar that there's a condition called pandas?
no,
So the only reason I know is because we happen to know somebody who has it,
uh-huh.
right? But I don't know. I didn't know what it stood for, so I just decided to go look it up.
Yeah.
Pandas is short for pediatric autoimmune neuropsychiatric disorders associated with streptococcal infections. So basically, something that affects your mind and your immune system that comes from strep throat. Okay. The child may be diagnosed with Panda when obsessive compulsive disorder, tic disorder, or both suddenly appear following a strep infection, such as strep throat or scarlet fever.
Wow.
So, did you ever have strep throat when you were little?
Not what I know of.
Neither did I, but almost every other kid that I know has had it.
What is it? What are the symptoms of it? Just like a cold, is it? Does it come up as a cold?
It's sort of like that, but it's like a lot of people who have repetitive strep throat will get their tonsils removed.
I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of strep throat until you just mentioned it now.
Okay, so almost every kid in my class at some point had strep throat. I never had it, right? And a lot of the kids who got strep throat would have to have their tonsils taken out. And like the propaganda around that when we were kids, because there's propaganda for kids too, right? Not just for adults, was that when you get your tonsils taken out, you can eat as much ice cream as you want because you're not allowed to eat solid food. You can only eat cold things and not solid things for a certain amount of time afterwards. So it's like, oh, the people who get their tonsils have to have their tonsils taken out are lucky because they can eat nothing but popsicles and ice cream for a couple of days. And so that becomes like something appealing, right? Getting your tonsils out so you can just be on the ice cream diet.
I do remember the old kid back at school, having their tonsils taken out. It must have been because of this.
So look at what this disease does, though. It affects your autoimmune and your neuropsychiatry. So I don't know if you've ever heard when I talk about how the immune system, right? The reason we're in some kind of bizarre war on the immune system is because your immune system also affects your ability to recognize patterns. So like it's the same people with a shitty diet and poor health that like can't see the illusion warfare, right?
Oh,
So I'm
yeah.
wondering if some of these childhood illnesses like strep throat are somehow the induction into this becoming a robot that just believes everything.
Mhm.
Right? Because and so the obsessive compulsive disorder or tic disorder or whatever, like this is this like the way that the body and the psyche reacts into this sudden like reprogramming of its system, right? Think about the way people acted during whatever the fuck it was that COVID was.
Yeah.
Right? It's like part of the symptoms of the initiation from one reality into another. But I never had strep throat, and it would be interesting to know how many people who are listening to this have or haven't had strep throat, and if anyone else has heard of this pandas disorder.
If they're not chopping off, a fucking kid's foreskin, they're ripping out their fucking tonsil, leave the
Yep.
fucking kids alone.
Well, what if the tonsils are somehow important in reality perception in a way that, like, what if it's like they say you have a second brain in your gut?
Yeah.
Like, what if the tonsils are some kind of perceptive organ or something in a way that is beyond how people normally think of it? Let's look up what the tonsils are. Purpose of tonsils. Let's see, function. Let's look at the function of the tonsils. What's the purpose of the tonsils? The main function of tonsils is fighting infection. Your tonsils contain a lot of white blood cells, which help kill germs. As your tonsils are in the back of your throat, they can catch germs that enter your body through your nose or your mouth. So the idea is to fight infection. It doesn't necessarily say what kind of infection, right? And, the takeover of the consciousness or the mind can certainly be considered a type of infection. So the answer to infection is to remove. This is item number one that makes no sense. The answer to someone who's having trouble fighting an infection is to remove the thing that helps them to fight an infection.
That sounds about right in our inverted double-crossed reality that we live in.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry for taking us on that aside, but I just couldn't help but add to this panda symbolism.
Yeah, no, it's all juicy stuff, man. But you spoke about these MH13, the flight?
MH370.
Sorry, 370. Yeah. Let me write down. So I noticed there's a lot of kind of time loops going on right at the moment. Like things are coming back. So like we just spoke about, the Iceland.
Yep.
What you just spoke about with MH37 coming back. Fucking what's his name? Not James Cameron. David Cameron, the former Prime Minister.
I saw that. Oy.
He's fucking back. He's back in our fucking reality now. Tony Blair's back as a kind of whatever stupid made up role they've given him with Israel.
Mm-hmm.
All the demons are coming back. Everything seems to be coming back. We're looping back, and all of the these 20 committee vampires are guiding the storylines are coming back. It's just crazy, like. And nobody seems to.
It's all like 90s stuff. It's all then we're looping back to the 90s.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, David Cameron was the prime minister when that first Iceland volcano ash thing came about. So this is just weird. It's just man. Yeah, again, it's just more kind of weird time looping of our reality, and these fuckers just don't seem to go away, do they, man? Like, hurry up and die,
Mm-hmm.
When's the next wave going to come in of these politicians now? I don't think they do. I just think they're just forever here with a new fucking costume on, a la Westworld.
Well, I mean, if the thing that I said about if the thing that I said about being able to sort of pause time like that, like it would make sense. I mean, this is something that Jeff and I and Michael and I have discussed in relationship to like some of the dominance of some of these like athletes, right? That have, been at the top of the game for 15 or 20 or more years, where all of their, other people from their group that they came up with retired or their bodies faltered long ago. Have they developed some sort of ability as a time lord to be the one who is generating the timelines that everyone else is living on? Or have they figured out some way to remove themselves and reinsert themselves into time at different spots, right, in order to perform their magic or their tasks or whatever, right? And so I'm wondering if that's, some of this as well. Sure, we can go, oh, well, there's just actors playing in, it's different people over time. But like literally, are they just removing themselves from the stage set? And when they're off the stage, sort of time stands still for them, so they can just reinsert themselves time and time again, here, there, and everywhere, no matter how much time has passed. Go ahead.
Oh, definitely. I've said this many times to you, I think, but the head of the double cross is called JC Masterman, yeah?
Yeah.
He's Jesus Christ, Master of Men. Julius Caesar. It's him. And I'm going to say something really, people are going to laugh at this, yeah? I think he's playing Loki right now on the TV show, Loki, where he's jumping through time. Mm-hmm. I think that's him. I think that is JC Masterman. In your face, the actor, I don't know what his name is.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is. He played Jesus Christ. He played Hitler. He played whoever, Washington, Lincoln, and now he's in our faces playing a Time Lord on TV called Loki, jumping through timelines in your face. Of course, I can't prove that to anyone. Yeah,
I
I
mean, there's
think
definite similarity. Yeah. It's,
I'm not talking about the exact face-for-face match. It's beyond,
yeah.
if these guys can jump through time, they can change the muscles in their face. Yeah, I'm not, I'm just talking about the iconic person that's standing on the world stage theater, guiding humanity into the next bullshit narrative. A psychopomp. As Carl Jung would call it, a spirit guide guiding all the NPCs and flesh robots into the next. Biden. We know every blip and slip and trip is all by design, right? That character, the dementia rubber face character, is guiding people, whether you love him or hate him. He's guiding America to the next version of reality.
Well, that's for
You know,
sure.
every mistake is on purpose. This is all part of it. It's all part of the engineering of the next phase, wherever it will be.
The I'm just looking at the synopsis of this book that J.C. Masterman wrote called The Double Cross System.
Yeah,
Right?
many people ask me, have I read it? And my answer is, there's no point, because it will be full of chicken. It's written by the double cross. It will be full of chicken feed. But anyway, go on.
Sometimes there's one golden nugget amongst the chicken feed that may be in there that the rest of the story is complete bullshit, but there's this one sort of fulcrum in there that you can kind of identify. But the story sounds kind of, I mean, I've just been watching it, so I don't have a fully formed opinion about it, but we're watching this new series on Netflix called All the Light We Cannot See. I mentioned it with the other day. I hadn't watched it at this point. It's 4 episodes. The season 1 right now has 4 episodes out. So we're on the 4th episode now, but it's a similar storyline, and it does involve the 2 main young actors are the gentleman who was in Dark, who was Jonas in Dark, and then the girl who was the medical student in that TV series I also spoke about a little bit with Nish, called Biohackers. So it's interesting that they play brother and sister in this show. And looks like it's delving into some of this territory. I don't know for sure that it's going to go there, but it seems like a similar setup, right? It deals with kind of when the Nazis invaded France, and that this seems that there's like a Nazi who's going to help the French, who are waiting for the West to help them, right, fight the Nazis. Or I don't know I'm not sure where it's going, but it seems like this could be part of what we're looking at in this series as well. And of course, that kid who plays Jonas in Dark, who's in this, also looks quite a bit like J.C. Masterman.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Jonas in Dark. Let me just show you what he looked. His name. So it's this guy right here. It's interesting. He doesn't seem to age for a young actor.
Yeah.
See?
Yeah.
Kind of similar types. I always forget about the J.C. Masterman person. Anywho.
He has. I've forgotten what it is, but he has some sort of connection to Wimbledon. I think he won a doubles tournament or something in Wimbledon.
Let's look it up.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm not putting anyone off who wants to read the book, but when I'm saying, the book says about their escapades, what they did in World War II, I'm saying they've been around forever and they're still around now, the double cross system. So they're only going to give you the mainstream kind of little, like you said, a little nugget of truth. But I think the main takeaway is the thing of chicken feed and the double cross system in itself. Is that him there flying?
J.C. Brugnon playing J.C. Masterman at the All England Club Tennis Championships, Wimbledon, 1926. But I don't know if that's him or the Brunon person. See if
I can't remember. I think it's on his Wikipedia, which yet again is not, Wikipedia, right? But it said something like I think he won like a doubles tournament at Wimbledon, I think.
let's check it out.
John Cecil Rhodes, right? Rhodes
Yeah.
Scholar, round table.
Yeah. I'm looking to see if it says anything about Wimbledon. Yep, Grand Slam doubles results. He made a Wimbledon quarterfinal in singles. He's made the fourth round, so that fourth round, which is the round of 16, right? And then he's made the quarterfinal as a doubles with someone else, and then he made the second round in mixed doubles. The second round of mixed doubles was in 1921. The other two were in 1923. So he made the better accomplishment is the 1923 was his year, a quarterfinal and a round of 16.
Yeah, he's an interesting character if anyone wants to kind of like look into. The last thing I wanted to talk about, Emily, was something you brought up. I think it was with Jeff, about how you go on holiday and you eat nothing but shit and stuff, but your skin's great, you feel great, everyone's hair's really thick, you're sleeping well, and what is that? I've noticed that as well, like, and then we come back home and what is that? What is it? Is it, because I've noticed, well, like whenever I go on holiday, I don't know, man, just here's what happens to me. I have a holiday for myself, right? So I'll eat fucking cheesecakes, I'll have hot chocolates, I'll eat out all the time. I'll get leaner and my muscle mass will go up, which is not supposed to work it's not, what we're told about dieting is not supposed to work that way. My beard looks nice and thick. And I come back home and it's kind of, I don't know, it's a bit different, right? Like, so yeah, what have you had any more thoughts on that?
Well, I think there's a couple of things, right? So there's like the obvious idea that people give, which is like when you're on vacation, you're relaxed, and when you're at home, you're feeling like you have work and the day-to-day responsibilities of being an adult and blah blah. We're going to ignore that for a minute, right? And we're going to go with like the two other ways that I'm looking at it. So the two things that have, as far as there is some truth. And I know because I've experienced what you just talked about with like eating shit or whatever. I've experienced it on vacation, not on vacation, in warm places, in cold places, that if you're used to eating a specific diet or pattern and then you switch it up, whether that switching it up is to a healthier diet or to a shittier diet, in the first, depending, it's different for different people, for a couple of days to a couple of weeks. For some people might experience weight loss or a surge of health, as when your body like does the thing it does, where it's like trying to figure out the new stuff. It kicks into this very helpful pattern of like trying to use pattern recognition to know what to do with things. So there is a metabolic or nutritional explanation for how people experience that sometimes, right? But this, we're going to kind of push that aside as well for now. Okay. So the two sort of standard explanations. So the way I see what my experience was is probably twofold. That it could have something to do with the amount of electrification and frequency soup, right? Or that it has to do with the climate, because I had 2 trips this year where I went to hot, like warm, dry places where there is not a lot of difference between the temperature during the day and the temperature at night. And in both places, I experienced profound relaxation, excellent digestion, and a very smooth and easy ability to separate from the chaos and propaganda and technology that I associate with my day-to-day life. And those 2 places were very different kinds of places. I was there with different people doing different things, but I seemed to have the same systemic response to them. I've been to other places in between and around there that were different. So both places, like when I went to Mexico, warm, dry, in Cabo, which I was surprised. I didn't realize how dry Cabo would be. It was warm, it was dry, and the temperature was pretty close at night and during the day. And I experienced that same thing in Palm Springs or Palm Desert over the summer, right? Palm Desert has more technology and more Wi-Fi and more frequency soup than Cabo does, but not as much as Austin does, right? I also, during that period of time, went to Lake Tahoe, which is also like a natural vacation kind of place. But there, it's at elevation, it's moist, it felt terrible, right? My body hurt, my digestion was bad, right? And whatnot. And, you know, I've been traveled to some other places in between. So I think it's possible when we travel to some certain locations that we're just not networked into the same grid, whether it be the exact grid in the way that Nish describes it, or whether it just be the level of technology, or that it has something to do with climate. And if you think about the propaganda we're being fed about like global warming and like how like hot and dry and whatever, and how bad that is, and we need to have more rain and more moisture and whatever it is. Like, I don't know. My friend Mitch would disagree. Like, I think he likes rain and green and whatever, but like that doesn't make me feel good. I feel good when I'm someplace where it's warm and dry, right? So my two theories on what I personally experienced were more about the amount of technology in the entire environment and atmosphere, and or the climate in terms of heat and dry. So those were my two feelings about the explanations. What do you think about that? Like when I got back here to Austin, where it's both high tech and also humid, and it's hot here, but it's humid, right? Like back to the digestion, back to body aches, back to feeling chaotic, all that kind of stuff. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely think there's a whole kind of, not to sound cheesy, but a whole kind of, the fact you're just in, you're buzzing, right, with excitement and stuff, which obviously shines through your body system. And I don't know, it's either like you said, we're getting bombed so hard with electrical interference or whatever, poisoned by what, it's having an effect. But I'm just thinking like, over here in the UK, all we ever hear about is immigration. Everyone wants to come here, but I can't go live in Greece. You know what I mean? I can't just turn up to Greece and start living in Greece. I'd have a very hard time getting a visa to live there. I can't go live in Thailand. All the places where I would love to go live, and I'd be, I feel would make, be good for me. I can't just do it. There's strict rules stopping me going there. So it's funny how they kind of like play this kind of inverted mind game where they think that like this is the place to be, everyone wants to come and be here, but really like we're the ones, us English people are just I'm sure it's the same for Americans maybe as well, but we're trapped here and we can't fucking go anywhere.
Correct. Yes. Right. Yes.
I would move to Greece tomorrow. I go to Rhodes Island tomorrow, or Cyprus, if I was just allowed to just turn up freely and just start working and earning money. But I can't. There's a whole European Union, strict rules and regulations. And when I was chatting to people over there, because it used to be a time when you could go over there and just, work in a bar or club for cash. No, not anymore. You've got to have your, national insurance number set up to be there, because, the nightclub that's employing you for cash, they'll get fined, 10 grand if they're employing people without the paperwork. So it's insane, man. It's so backwards. And yet again, more Agent Smith, more Adjustment Bureau, in my opinion, human trafficking us, stopping us going places where we might be better off.
That's what this really is, right? So like this is an example of human trafficking, which is completely different on some levels than the way, like, people are always just thinking about human trafficking in terms of like child trafficking, sex trafficking, drug trafficking, or organ trafficking, right? Like those are the ways they're thinking about it. But what it really is like moving people around coercively for not their benefit, right? Or blocking people. Like you're forcing someone somewhere that they're not really willingly going, or keeping them from some place that they want to go on some level, right? It's this sort of cordoning off, sectioning off, herding, corralling type of thing. So you're absolutely right. Like there's a million places that I might like to go live, but I either am not legally allowed to go there, to stay for more than a certain amount of period of time for the reasons you said, or you can go there, but because you can't get a job there or start a business there, you're forced to work remotely to something back here in the United States, which requires a good internet connection that place doesn't have.
Yeah.
Right. So that there's a couple of ways they get you depending on your predilections and your scenario. Right? Like that's the first thing people who want to live abroad do. Am I allowed to live there? Am I allowed to work there? And if not, is there a good internet connection? So the few places that people can live abroad are no less highly wired, right? On some level, it keeps them pegged to the grid at home.
Yeah. And all you ever hear about is politicians, all they talk about is, what are we going to do about people coming here? There's not one politician out there fighting for example, where English people to go and work abroad freely. Not even talk. It's not even a thing
here either.
Yeah.
Right. It is weird. It's like, there's part of me, like I have, I'm a voluntarist, anarchisty type pretty much at my heart. And I feel like we're all here on Earth, whether you subscribe to the narrative that we all chose to be here or that we're stuck here, whichever it is, we all seem to be here, right? And that like maybe we should just be allowed to be wherever we want to be, right? And like Earth seems to be the home for all of us, and we should be able to roam it freely and settle where we like, type of thing, right? So that's probably what I truly believe. But since we don't live in that system, like you're right, what the fuck is this shit where everyone can come here but we can't go anywhere? Yeah.
People know, like there will be a point I'll just fucking do it anyway. I just haven't found a way. Like you said, I can't really make money out there. I'm not saying because there's rules and regulations you shouldn't even try if that's what you really want to do. You have to fucking break the rules. So yeah, that's on my mind every day, Emily. I think, how can I make it so I can live in, Cyprus would be perfect. Rhodes, I went to Rhodes. I'm always eyeing that up.
Yeah,
ways I can do it. But yeah, man, it does kind of lean this. I hate saying the word prison planet. I don't like that term, but there is definitely, if you've looked into it and you've tried to move around, you'll definitely see there are, like I said, there's real human trafficking there that stops you going where you want to go, man. Bottlenecking you, whatever it is, it's there. You can't, to say that's not there is bullshit. It is there.
On some levels, it's kind of like, well, like, let's pretend for a second that anything is what they're trying to convince us it actually is. Like, maybe that's part of why people have such this strong visceral reaction to Israel-Palestine, even though it seemingly has really nothing to do with them and doesn't affect their life, right? Is you have this people in this area it's being encroached on, and it's smaller and smaller, and they can't leave, right? Mm-hmm. And whatever, right? And then you have the few, whatever you think about, like Hamas and terrorism or whatever, like, acting out, right? And so whichever side of the debate you come down on, it really is based on some of the same idea that we're laying down here, where you have like people's access to be somewhere or to leave somewhere being restricted unnaturally.
Yeah.
and it's in it's tight, the tightest that it is there. Like we can move now. I'm going to ask to take a quick pause to go to the bathroom, but then we can move into talking about some of what you've discovered about this Israel-Palestine situation and how this could be being orchestrated. But you showed in your videos like how tiny this area is, right?
Yeah.
How tiny it is. And so that feeling that we're talking about of like people being forced into specific areas and cordoned off and not being allowed to go into other areas and trying to jump the wall to do it and this and that. It's like at its tightest and most extreme there, right?
Oh, yeah.
But it's a phenomenon on some level going on everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. I do cover this quite. Yeah, I cover this quite a lot. Yeah, I call it the real human trafficking.
Yeah,
And this is that. This the real that whole business of those underground tunnels with children having their organs taken out and Trump's going to go down. That's all just misdirect to take away from the fact that you yourself are being human trafficked right now in day-to-day life.
correct.
Yeah, the lockdowns are obviously an example of that, and so on. But yeah, man, let's have a quick break.
All right, so a quick potty break. We'll be right back.
Okay, see you in a sec.
Okay. And we are back. Okay, I was thinking about this just while we were on the break real fast, that the trafficking is not only physical, right? Like moving people from one place to another or stopping them from moving, but it's also psychological, energetic, right? If you can move somebody from believing one thing to believing another thing, right? Or whatever, right? Or divert their energy from one thing to another, like that also kind of comes into the mix, right? Especially the more simulated our reality becomes, right? There isn't such a need sometimes then to move someone from physical location to physical location, but you do need to move them from idea to idea, or from, putting their energy and their belief behind one thing to another thing, right? So anywho, all right,
Yeah.
take us away to Israel and Gaza. Go ahead.
Well, just what you're saying there, that the theater, the theatrics in the street create the theatrics in the mind, right? The theater of the mind.
Yeah.
So it's all
it's an interplay. What the theatrics in the street play into the theatrics in the mind,
goes
and
round
then
and round.
start to project something out, right? That then affects what goes on out there, which somebody else experiences and leads to a change in that, right? Like it's just this very highly sort of dynamic, interactive system.
And in the film Hypnosis, which hopefully everyone's seen.
Hypnotic?
Sorry, Hypnotic. This is what they represent, right? Once he finally drops seeing stuff that isn't there, he's just walking around fucking traffic cones in a car park. He's not driving in a car, he's driving in a golf caddy thing. And sometimes it does. I mean, that's a very kind of extreme way of showing it, right? For the sake of the film. But it's not too far off that. Like when I was walking around Kiev, all it was like them kind of anti-tank hedgehog things placed everywhere. They made an army guy stand on that corner. These aesthetics, this theater in the street transports you. Yeah, again, 4D theater. It transports the mind into a place that they want you to believe. So yeah, interconnects. Anyway, Israel-Palestine, yes, since the beginning of that war, I tried to get over there. And yeah, every flight I booked got cancelled, and the only place that seemed to have legitimate flights still going across was from Cyprus, which is 1 hour away from Israel. It's literally just the other side of the Mediterranean Sea. And so yeah, I got myself over to Cyprus. I booked a flight. It never got cancelled. And yeah, when I got to the check-in desk, wow. I basically, I kept getting asked like a series of quite crazy questions from the cute airline hostess. I kept passing them the questions like, essentially like, what the hell are you going to do in Tel Aviv whilst there's a war going on? And then eventually, once I answered all her questions, a guy I can only describe as a Mossad Agent Smith type guy basically came over and pretty much just said, no, you're not coming in. So yeah, again,
I would love. What were the lines you were feeding to the airline hostess girl about what you were going to do there? Set the stage for us.
I said, look, I said, I'm traveling around the world. This is what I do. You know, you can see my passport. And I said, going via Tel Aviv is a very cheap way for me to go home. I'm only going to be in Tel Aviv for 2 days. And then I'm going to go off to Venice. And I already had that ticket booked in Venice because it's only like 20 quid. So I already had, so I could prove to them, I could give them the bullshit that I was transiting through. Because this is what I've learned from my experience. When you're transiting through, it's a lot better than you just staying there, having a ticket one way.
Yeah.
This is how I got through like all of Europe during the scandemic times. Because in the small print, every country, you're allowed to transit through as long as you got out within 24 hours. Without a kind of vaccine passport or anything. So yeah, and that was that. But you know, the questions were getting ludicrous. Like, do you have a girlfriend? Do you have a sexual partner? You know, and all this kind of weird shit that's got nothing to do with anything, but weird kind of questions that you start to realize, okay, these are not air hosts. These are not regular air hostesses. This is some sort of internal security force that's here. And yeah, man, they had like a whole, you know, like when you check in, right? I don't know if it's in the USA because USA everything's bigger, but here you usually have 2 check-in desks. Say you need to get your boarding pass printed. There'll be a regular, you know, for regular people, and there'll be one next to it, which is for disabled people, people who have lost their ticket, whatever, you know, people with extreme luggage. They had a row of 4 and they had their own little like table set up next to it. They basically had a whole kind of corner of the airport to themselves, where there were just guys in suits, and they were basically kept walking off with my passport and running background checks on it.
Mm-hmm.
And then just the questions were getting weird and weird, but they were basically trying to Jedi mind trick me into not wanting to go.
Right.
And then they started doing a weird thing of moving it to go, like trying to make out I was some sort of person of suspicion. You know, and then eventually he just said no, like not today kind of thing. And that was it, you know. And yeah, again, you know, it further proves my point that there is a hidden hand here, human trafficking us all, you know.
Yeah. Because you'd think if they were not wanting people coming in, they would just cancel all the flights, right?
Which they do. So you can go on anywhere right now, like Skyscanner. You might see a flight and you can book it like I did, but the night before it won't process. It won't give you your online check-in. And then you'll just get an email before saying, oh yeah, your flight's been cancelled. I mean, that's how I lost about 300 quid. I've still got like 300 quid in credit with all these stupid airlines.
Yeah.
Where it got cancelled. So it's a crafty trick, really, because again, people like me, it nails me because it's sucking out my money into places I can't bring it back into use, you know?
Yeah.
And I think Skynet or whoever's running this, you know, it's learned from how I got into Ukraine what to do now. Do you know what I'm saying? It's learned from the mistakes of Ukraine. And with this section of World War III, it's now going to like be a lot more stricter and a lot more kind of, like you said, controlled and tight and impossible to get into.
Like, I wonder if they learned. So I wonder if they learned from what you actually did in Ukraine, or from how, was it more about, oh, I see, like this bloke got in under the radar beforehand, before we had everything all set up, and you know, so we, you know, if it's that, or if it's more learned from how you put things together to present your narrative publicly. Like, I wonder which thing they're more concerned about, is that you're aware of it or that you present it. Right. And which like, I'm sure to a certain extent, both. Right. But sometimes we're very much more, like, I remember this kid that I met from parties that I hung out with a couple times. Right. And like, he was very convinced that all of these very extreme things were happening to prevent him from broadcasting across, the airwaves, what it is he knows about the conspiracy or the truth or the nature of reality, right? Like, and it was pretty far-fetched, right? Like, kind of thing. But so I think a lot of people think that the thing is trying to stop me from saying the truth, when I actually think it's the other way around, is that there's more concern with, people getting to know you, the person having the adventure, getting to know the truth, right? That, knowing is what's off limits, not talking about it, though they've gone to a great extent to convince us that it's the talking about it they're concerned with. Does that make sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying my best not to be very grandiose here. Like I'm, but yeah, it does very much feel like it's moving around, like Dark City. It's moving around to stop me getting there. And I just snuck into Ukraine. It ain't going to happen anymore. It's learned. They've learned now. I never stopped Ukraine whatsoever. I just taught them how to do it, manage it better on the next one.
Like it was like the whatever this system was willing to allow you to put out a fake narrative about Israel and Gaza, right, as the price for keeping you out of actually going there.
You're talking about my I forgot about that. So my fake thread.
Right.
Yeah, so for people listening, because I couldn't get to Israel and Palestine, I thought I'd have some fun in Cyprus. And in Cyprus, they've got a ghost city from a previous war, from the war in 1974, where where Britain gave up Cyprus as a territory, and then the Turkish moved in, and apparently everyone ran away from this city called Famagusta, and it's now a ghost city. You can walk around as like a touristy thing, and the UN are running it. So I use this place because it's got the same aesthetics as Gaza. It's got the same aesthetics as Israel, and I done kind of a fake, just for fun, shits and giggles, a fake hoaxy kind of thread claiming that I was in Israel and Gaza. And to be fair, a lot of people, even though I clearly said on my second tweet and the third tweet, this is pure fiction, many people did say, "Oh, Les, you're over there. Can I support you?" and all this kind of stuff. But I showed how easy it is to just film a place that looks like Gaza and just overlay some sound effects, and there you have it. This is the images that are flooding the internet right now, which are making us believe there is a hellscape war zone happening over there. And I did it in a space of 2 hours, just sitting in a coffee shop. And people don't know I'm a nightclub bouncer. Yeah, I've got no kind of IT training or anything, no VFX training. So just think about what someone with that kind of skills could do. Because I know, Emily, you're not on Twitter, but like on that side of the internet, you're constantly getting flooded with these like 10-second videos of supposedly just a real person just sitting in their house, and then a bomb goes off and their windows are blown through or whatever, and it's just a curtain shaking and all this kind of horseshit, or just someone just filming a block of towers and there's just machine gun fire in the background. It's so easy to do. I've done that. But that place in itself is very interesting, the ghost city.
Very interesting, right? Like, we don't think about that in association with sort of, like we think about ghost cities in China, right? Like, we think about, well, there's two versions of ghost towns that we're allowed to believe in. The old Wild West ghost towns that are part of, the movie narrative here in the United States, right? And there's a few of these around, like you can go into somewhere in Arizona or, whatnot, and there's an old abandoned ghost town, or now they've turned it into a tourist attraction, but it all looks like something from a theme park, right? Or there's these crazy, fully built cities with apartment buildings and malls and corporation buildings in China with no one living in those cities. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they've apparently been pre-built in anticipation for the rising population, but no one's there yet, and it's just like
either that or that the stories that you get are either that there's going to be a sudden rise of population and they need to be able to house them, or that something is going to happen that's going to force people to abandon a city and they can just literally move right into another city and carry on, right? Right, type of thing. Those are the two narratives around that. So those are the two kinds of ghost towns that we're allowed to believe in, right? Ones that are from this like storied time in the American Old West, or some like weird future panopticon Chinese thing, right? But you don't think about it in terms of like, oh, there's like this abandoned resort town that is like trapped in recent modernity, like the 70s or 80s, where like, you know, theoretically, like, I mean, it doesn't make any sense for some of the problems that we're told we have in this world, that there would be this place that looks like, with not too much work and attention, could be fit for lots of people to live there, just sitting there frozen in time, but people are still allowed to like approach it at some level. Like the whole thing is so fucking weird. I've never heard of this before. So tell us exactly what you did while you were in Cyprus, since you couldn't go to Israel and Gaza.
Yeah, man. So I just flipped it into a nice little holiday, and yeah, I went over to the Turkish side. You have to go over a crossing. Um, it's weird because as you're going over the crossing from the Greek side to the Turkish side, there's just a British town, a military town, where Britain, although Britain has given up, on paper is giving up Cyprus as a territory, they've still got a huge military presence there. They've got an RAF base there and a military base there, and I speculate they're doing a lot of the phantom bombing over in Palestine and Israel. Right, it's only 1 hour flight away from the film set. I don't think people realize how close Cyprus is.
So to be clear for people, Les was in this abandoned ghost city on the coast of Cyprus, pretending that it was like pretending and creating like a film and Twitter thread as if he were in Gaza City, right? But really, he was basically across the bay in Cyprus at this weird, like frozen in time, abandoned sea town that the UN now controls and the Slovakian military was patrolling.
Yeah, and the Turkish as well. Now, what was strange is it's not in this thread. I did it in somewhere else, but half of it, you're only allowed to walk down like a 1 mile of this ghost town. The other 7 kilometers are shut off, and there's even kind of new kind of screening that's gone up with no cameras, and you can see there's something going on there. And I speculate they are hoaxing or staging a lot of their war atrocity videos there.
Has to be, right? Like, I mean, when I'm looking at this, I'm like, how is it that like, right, I don't know how anybody would differentiate one war-torn footage from another. Like, it is weird to me that like it seems that no matter what happens, as soon as a war breaks out or a bomb hits somewhere, suddenly that city looks like it was like never moved past the 50s or the 60s, right? Like it's weird, but that would be explained by if they're just using the same few locations. My guess would be that this isn't the only location in the world that is like that there are probably a few, right? In different areas. But this makes sense. Just like most movies are shot at Paramount or MGM or whatever, and the things they can't do in-house, they have like a few different nature locations that they use, or a few different streets or neighborhoods that they use. That makes total sense.
Well, Michael one talks about this a lot. Well, he did talk about this a lot, but he didn't go into it, I don't think, in my opinion, deep enough. But in World War II, is it the BCS or BSC, the British Security Coordination,
right,
who were sent over to America with the sole task of getting the American people from being anti-British to being pro-British and wanting to join the war.
right.
Now, the first thing they did when they got there was they said there's not enough atrocity videos circulating in the US. So they got to staging atrocity videos over in Canada, where it's snowy, claiming to be in the USSR.
Mm-hmm.
So, the war magicians, the City of London, the people who organize all these wars, they first thing they do is flood the internet with atrocity videos that are all staged. And you've seen that from the get-go with this one, uh, you know, paragliders coming in and shooting a peace festival up, beheaded babies, grannies being kidnapped. It's all atrocity videos, man. That's the first thing they do. And yeah, that's just one ghost city out of many. I know the biggest place is Russia and Ukraine. There's loads of ex-Soviet, empty Soviet towns that you did used to be able to walk around until the war in Ukraine started. And guess what? Strudga 1, Strudga 2, all of these places, these famous ghost cities, you could walk around, shut off, and taken over by NATO to be used as, in brackets, training areas. No. That's where they're staging all the footage.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, again, I haven't stepped foot in Palestine, Israel, or even slightly up the road, Lebanon, or Syria to the left. I don't know how many ghost cities there are, but yes, I would say 100. I don't think people I don't think people realize, like, not everywhere is like the UK and the US, overpopulated with people just drinking coffee and eating McDonald's. There are places in this world that are just like that, derelict. Especially when there's been a war there. Again, the war is the ultimate cover story for when the shit gets moved around in the Matrix, when the Dark City, when the strangers or whatever they're called come in and move people around. So yeah, man, ghost cities. I mean, my trip was worth it for that. That was such a great place for me. Like,
Yep.
Ideally, I wanted to go back when the Ukraine war was going on, go to Latvia and go to the ones around there, but you can't. They're all shut off, owned by the UN.
Did you know about this town before you arrived, or was this something that you discovered when you were looking for something to do because you couldn't go to Israel?
No, I was always aware of it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, someone's helping me out, but it's one of them times where, for some reason, I thought I'd turn on I don't really watch my TV much anymore, but I turned on my TV one day, that's just in the corner of my bedroom gathering dust, and this fucking travel program's on, and a guy's walking around that place.
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah.
It's like, of all the things that could have came at me through the black cube, it was that, and it's always been on my mind. So the stars aligned for me, and everything kind of synchronicity lines up for me. Yeah, I've always wanted to go there.
The increase in that, what you're talking about right there, like, so I've been having a weird thing happen pretty much since I got back from Mexico, right? Where maybe it started a little before. Like, I'm looking into, I've been doing this thing with the periodic table and the hydrogen. And let me just tell you, like, the amount of chaos that hydrogen has wreaked on my life I didn't see that coming for sure. But like, it doesn't matter what I do. If I open a magazine, turn on a TV show, get an email, read a book that's supposedly about something else, everything is basically talking about the same thing, having to do on some level with hydrogen or plasma, or like like everything is clustered around a couple of topics. Like, I could literally like go into the dentist's office tomorrow, and if there's a Time magazine on the table, I'll open it to a page that will have something to say about that, would just that same way that you did. You turned on the TV and there it was, right? And it almost feels like that's part of this interesting design of the system that we were talking about, right? About, okay, you go someplace and then it's populated, right? Like, you have a thought or you have an idea, and then sort of everything shows up to like actualize that for you. And what is that? How controlled is that? Or is that the nature of things, and then just the way we perceive the experiences we have once we follow that are where the control comes in? Like, I have no idea, but yes, I have had many of those just way too perfect moments that, like, how could it be that in all of the millions of pieces of literature available in the world, two things I picked up completely disparately are talking about the exact same thing?
Well, back to our good old friend, the Time Lord himself, Christopher Nolan. That sounds like Interstellar. Have you seen Interstellar?
Yes.
Right. So the beginning of the film, books are falling off the shelf and opening on certain pages and stuff. You get to the end of the film, you realize it was him sending
Yes.
messages back to him through
Yes.
the Tesseract or whatever it's called.
Yes.
I think there's some truth to it. I think we're leaving clues for ourselves. Emily ahead of time, who's now going through the Tesseract, is throwing clues back to herself, keeping herself on track and whatnot. I
Yeah.
definitely, yeah, I'm a big believer in that. Because there's some things you just think, how, it's the mathematical likelihood of that happening, you know, but it happens.
So the version of Les that is like, nah, don't throw that television away, right? Because you don't watch it at all, and you've thought of getting rid of it a million times, but it just sits there in the corner because that version of you in the future, waiting for you to arrive, will knows that you'll need it here, there, and again, right?
Yeah, yeah, right. But there's got something to that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best guess I have. Yeah.
What do you think? Okay, so you wanted to go to Israel and Gaza. You didn't get to go, but you got to see the entirety of this propaganda campaign from a wholly new perspective that just kind of like further crystallized that sort of path that you've already been going down for the last several years, right? Like to the point of, I have to, this has been happening for a while. This flavor is a little different than some, like I got bored of like the shootings and those kinds of things a long time ago. Like there's a lot more charge around this Israel Gaza thing than there has been around stuff for a while. But like I'm to the place where it's like I don't think that I can possibly get any information that is real, true, or has anything to do with what may or may not actually be going on in a place that may or may not exist in the way that I've been led to believe it does, right? And so like I'm deeply like I was talking about this in a show I recorded with Danny. It's not out yet. All I can do, the only truth that can be gleaned from this situation is by listening to the way people talk about it as to like what kind of person they are. Are they willing to engage ideas that oppose their preformed narrative of the world or not? Do they engage those conversations honestly? Are people hypocritical? Do they hold themselves to the same standards of others? There's like no actual facts about what's going on that can be gained, right? So it's moved into this like assessing conversations about things rather than assessing what may or may not actually be going on. And I'm really starting to deeply wonder what would happen to my mind. What would I think about if my thoughts weren't being directed in any way, and if I didn't feel compelled to quote unquote pay attention to what's going on in the world? Like what would I think about if I wasn't being pushed to think about something specific or some specific set of things? And it seems like you're a little bit more closely tinkering on that sort of, edge of reality, right? Like I think you're willing to on some level let go of a lot more things than I'm willing to let go of, but still there's something inside of you that drives you to do this, right? Like what are we doing? What do you think exists on the other side of whatever the fuck this collective conversation we all feel the need to be involved in on some level is? What do you think is on the other side of that?
I don't know. Well, this is the dilemma I have, right? Is that I'm, not actually really changing the world. I'm only just adding more eyes onto it from a different angle, right? And I noticed another red flag was days before it all kicked off over there. They suddenly released my account from the abyss, and everyone could see my stuff. So that was a red flag coming up. The fact that they opened up my account. So the dilemma is that I'm actually diverting people into looking at something when really what you should do is not look at it. As for that, Emily, truth be told, I enjoy the adventure of it. I'm going to be honest with everyone. I think this is a very boring. The biggest problem with our reality is very boring. So I make the event, for me, it's an adventure seeking thing. Like even if I didn't have a Twitter account, I'd probably still go and just for my own shits and giggles and fun, like I finally found like a reason for me to go somewhere because a war, a wildfire, real or not, the amount of energy that swirls around that place with the whole directed energy weapon of people's attention on it. When you go there, it's a buzz, man. And I finally found like an adventurous way and a reason to go somewhere. And like I said, I may not always bring the camera along, And for me, it just makes it a bit more exciting. Like, because for me, like going somewhere just to lounge around for lounging holidays is not really my thing. Like, um, and up until 2020, I would say that was the biggest problem I had in life. Is like, how do you deal with the boredom of this world? Like, what do you do for fun other than get into fights, take drugs, and shag people that are questionable and you shouldn't probably shag? Like, where's the fun? Like, where's the thrill? Where's the excitement? Surely there's got to be more to life than just going to work and getting a mortgage and watching Netflix. I can't do that shit. So as for what's behind it, I don't know. Probably nothing. Like I've always said, if I probably got hold of JC Masterman or Ra's al Ghul or whoever the main culprit is and pulled off his mask, there's probably going to be me under there. I don't care. You know what I mean? It's all kind of, and I don't really know other than I'm trying to make this experience kind of a bit fun now and a bit exciting, but I'm also trying to be righteous about it. And I'm trying to be maybe help people on the way, maybe to break out of that kind of loose fest thing of making everyone feel that, this 1984 thing of making everyone think we're like a week away from being on starvation because the economy collapses and things like that. I like to think that maybe my work kind of relaxes people a little bit. Like, okay, babies are not getting their heads chopped off. We're not 6 months away from running out of food. It's all just nonsense. And maybe that can then free them up a bit. So I don't know, Emily. I went around the houses there. I don't really know what. I don't know if I care either. Like, what is behind this? I don't know.
No. What I mean, what's on the other side of it is like if we somehow stopped paying attention to anything going on in the world, right? Like, I don't mean like who's machinating it, who's making this happen, who the man behind the mask is. What I mean is like if one could sort of escape let's just pretend for a second that all of the propaganda and mind control and directed energy weapons and all that kind of stuff, like let's say that it only exists in this bubble that for the sake of this conversation could be symbolized by the firmament or the ice wall, right? And if like completely cutting yourself off from thinking or caring about any of that is almost equal to like being outside of the firmament or on the other side of the ice wall, do you think that like what do you think exists over there? Is it nothingness? Is it a more bland version of this? Is there some other world over there that is like more sensible and in line with some sort of idea that we've been thought to believe of as more holistic or more organic? Like, what do you think exists beyond all of this? Not the control, not the gears and the levers of it, but if we were to escape it.
Well, either one of them you just mentioned, the common theme, they'd all be as boring as fuck.
That's true.
They'd be so boring that you would freely want to come back to Chaos World.
Yeah.
That's something we have to be honest with ourselves about. Like, we love the fucking illusion, man. We love it. We'd be fucking done without it. Do you remember in the Matrix, when he's talking he meets up with the architect and he said, the Paradise Matrix didn't work. They made a Paradise Matrix and humans rejected it. It was just too perfect. There was nothing going on there. Then they made a Nightmare Matrix and that was just pointless, killing everyone. And it was just, there was no point to it. It's just, there was no like benefit on it. So now we're in this kind of what we're in, this double cross illusion matrix where the terror is kind of over there in the distance, a ghostly kind of terror that mainly exists in your mind. But it's a perfect kind of blend of, we kind of live in a paradise where nothing's going on, but there's also a bit of fear, you know, lighting a fire up our ass, making us do stuff. Because even that fucking Elon Musk, that character Elon Musk said, if this is a simulation, the reality is that we built it because it's so fucking boring outside
Yeah.
of it. And that's the reality, man. Like, I'll be honest to say, the biggest struggle I've had in my whole entire life is boredom.
I've had,
What?
I definitely had some struggles with boredom as well. It's true. The best mystery is one that like you can't solve, but you never lose interest in trying.
Yeah,
Right? It keeps you busy, like on an ongoing basis.
right. Do you really want to solve? Yes, I mean, do you really want to solve the puzzle and then have nothing to do?
When
And
you're
then
a
what?
kid, did you think all the games that the other kids played were boring?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then when you'd see like the older kids or the adults doing something, and for a while you became interested in that because that wasn't what you were supposed to be doing, and eventually you found a way to bust yourself into that older kids or that adult kids or the cooler kids world, and then you were there for a while, and then you're like, oh, this is also boring, right? And so the only thing that like wasn't boring was that short period of kind of chase between levels of boring.
yeah. And a lot of us, we create all these excuses and stuff, but really we self sabotage our way out of that boredom. Um,
Yeah.
when you look at a relationship with cheating and stuff like that, or you got yourself out of a job, subconsciously it's not that you didn't not love that person, you're just bored. And for some reason we're not allowed to admit that we're bored. We have to make up all these wild excuses and mental health issues and diagnoses, but we can't just say I'm fucking bored. Uh, what was I going to say about I remember back in little school when they first started taking us to like the local library. Like every other week, the bus will come and take all us little kids to the library. Everyone go pick a book and read for an hour. Man, I'd go get Where's Wally?
Where's Waldo?
Yeah, it's called Where's
Yeah.
Wally over here.
Okay.
Man,
Yeah.
that he was yeah, man. I was looking for Wally, man. I'm still looking for Wally.
I
I
liked
am
I
the
liked
Matrix.
Encyclopedia Brown, who was a detective.
Oh yeah. Um, what can I say? I think that's a big part of it,
Yeah.
In it, like you can't. I mean, have you ever heard someone just, they want out of a relationship, just say to the other person, "Look, I'm bored of this life." You don't, do you? Or just say to their boss they're working for, "I'm fucking bored of this job." There's always some other thing people tell themselves, and oh, I'm not making enough money. I'm not getting enough affection. It's a weird one, isn't it? Like,
Well, and I see your point though, because like, okay, so like if I were to go to my boss and say like I'm bored, right? Like I'm bored, they take offense at that.
yeah,
Right? Then they would say to you, well, then you should quit or they'll fire you. Instead of acknowledging that they're bored too, and like maybe we should change something up in the business model or introduce a new da 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 da. And at least that will satisfy our boredom for a little while, and then we can become bored again. But it's not, you're right. It's not only this, we don't want to be honest with ourselves around that, but it's not permissible. Like other people don't permit that either, right? If I or you were to tell someone we're in a relationship, we're bored, they would instantly take that as us saying they are boring instead of
yeah,
acknowledging that they're bored too, which is likely the truth. And you're right, we'll go to all this stuff about, well, we haven't found our purpose, or oh, I'm suffering from trauma, or oh, I'm in a financial hole and I have to do this, or oh, I'm whatever story you tell yourself, and whatever story you tell, there's like your individual story, and then there's your like collective narratives with your partner, your parents, your siblings, your friends, whatever the fuck it is, your boss, right? And it would be like really interesting if we all just had a come to Jesus moment and admit that like we're all bored and like, let's play games.
Right. You think of the Friday night, the classic Friday night. What's everyone doing really? They're just killing the boredom, They're going to go get shit-faced drunk, which they know is not good for them. Going to do some fucking pills or a bit of cocaine up their nose, which is a temporary buzz. Dancing's good, but my point is, like, if you did that all the time, that would be boring.
Right.
And you'd want to go to maybe something would be fun, would be going working a crappy job. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. Yeah, it's a tough one. But I admit that that's been my biggest problem in life. Like, whenever I had moments of depression, because I was so fucking bored, I had nothing going on, no drive, and that's many reasons why I keep myself kind of on the paycheck to paycheck poor, because it kind of like fires me up to be like in a certain state where I'm on fire. Because the times I had money and I was comfortable, I was fucking miserable, man. Most miserable times in my life is when I've been comfortable.
And it's interesting because we all always want to be comfortable.
Yeah, no, we don't know. We don't. That's just lying to us. I don't. And some of the best times of my life is when I've been, homeless, or I've been in trouble with the law, and I'm potentially going to go to get banged up for a small amount of time. All of these things that are in the back of my mind making me live life. And that's why I like the scamdemic, right? In the back of my head in the early year, I thought, shit, man, they're going to come get us. Well, us real ones, isn't it? This is what the lockdown is. And it made me think I've got to go and travel as much as I can whilst I can. And every week I went traveling somewhere in the UK, because in the back of my head, I was thinking at some point, because I was believing all the bullshit that was going around the truther community, they're going to lock us down forever and they're going to come and vaccinate us and all that kind of shit. I thought, that's not going to happen to me. And, it lit a fire at my ass, and it was yet again another exciting time.
I agree with you. Like, year one of the pandemic was one of the best times of my life.
Right.
It wasn't boring.
Yeah. Emily, think about the podcasting world, how they were the golden days of podcasting in this area. Even I know I talk a lot of shit about the truther community, but there was so much speculation going on that everyone pretty much had their Philip K. Dick hat on and was speculating what the fuck it was. And I was hearing some of the best stories ever. I had a backlog of like 20 plus podcasts. I was like, couldn't wait to go sit on the beach and listen to, man, all these wild things about, it could be aliens, it could be coming to get us, and it's really a secret UN takeover. Man, it was thrilling. Now that's gone away, the podcasting scene is dead.
It's so boring right now.
Talk about it's so boring.
Yeah. No, I agree. I mean, there was a time back in like mid 2000s to like 2012 or 13 where like the YouTube and podcasting was like the Wild West. It was awesome. I couldn't get enough. Everything was great. And then it got kind of homogenized. And you're right. Like, on some level, even though there was the annoyance of like dealing with certain types of encroaching censorships and whatever, year one of the pandemic, it was like everybody was hot to find the real explanation for what was going on. And there was kind of no limits on what it was reasonable to consider. And it did create for kind of a wild moment of chaos. And then, because there was so much restriction in place, anything you did that was like beyond the prescribed allowed things became some grand adventure, right? Like this sort of shrinking of the plantation made any movement on the peripheries of it or outside of it a wild adventure.
Yeah. Patrice O'Neill, yeah?
Yeah.
My favorite and one of my heroes. He had his, his Black Phillip show, right? Which is always worth a listen to now, because it's so good. But someone used to call in basically saying how they're really happy, kind of like being married for 20 years, right? And then someone would call in who was like cheating or whatever. And I'm not promoting cheating, by the way. I'm just saying about excitement. And he'd always say, look, you see that person? You heard that person, the last caller? He sounded like he was dead. He sounded like he had cancer. Yeah, I've been with my wife for 20 years and I'm really happy. And then the guy that rang up cheating goes, yeah, man, I'm meeting this girl on Thursday and I can't let my other girlfriend know. And he's like, can you hear the excitement in his fucking voice? And
Yeah.
I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying cheating is the answer. I'm just using that as an example. And it's same like me. Like I'm buzzing when I go to these fucking places. Like sitting there on the fucking train, thinking that oh shit, as the people with the guns gonna come and surround me again. Yeah, your bollocks are in your mouth at the time, but once you get through it, man, whew.
It's so I don't know if I have a friend who I've done some shows with him over the years. I don't know if you're familiar with him at all. His name is Gary Warmerdam, right? And he one time had this video where he was talking kind of about how we have been so removed from our natural state of like meeting life moment to moment by this ability to like pre-plan for everything, by like logistics, right? By knowing there's food on the shelves in the market and that, you know, the next shipment will be there by this certain date. And we're able to sort of like completely pre-plan our lives to the place that we almost never have to deal with anything unexpected. And even if we do, it's like so momentary and solved by the next moment, right? Whereas like before we had any of that, right? Before there was a highway grid system and planned towns, like, you know, you never knew, like if I turn right, will there be a lion? Or if I turn left, will there be a, you know, whatever. We've been so removed by like the way life has been, the way reality has been put together, from that feeling of meeting reality moment to moment and not knowing what to expect. We all have an expectation that the next moment will be like very similar to this moment we're in now, right? And that has stopped us from having that sort of that sort like the with that feeling of adrenaline, or that feeling of being alive, of like anything could happen at any moment. We know to like almost 100% what the next moment is going to be. Like I know that in 1 minute I will still be talking to you right here, right now. There will not be a
Yeah,
lion in my living room, right? The earth is not going to fall out from underneath my feet. The internet is not going to be shut down. All of that kind of stuff, right? Um, and how that's changed our physiology and our brain and the way we perceive light and sound and information and all of that kind of stuff.
yeah. That's why, you know, my theory. We're going to get a bit dark now, but that's why my theory is there'll never be UBI, because what will the masses do without their stupid thing to chase, without chasing their next paycheck or going out on a Friday night getting them coked up or whatever? If you just gave people money and said, look, you're an adult now, you've got to grow your own food and barter with everyone, and I think people would check it. I think there would be mass suicides because it'd be slightly more boring than it is now. I think this the illusion is what's keeping people somewhat alive. Um, so I'm many ways, although I'm you know Mr. Illusion Warfare, I understand it's a very important part of our system and it keeps it moving. It keeps energy buzzing, which keeps this place running. And you know, many people in World War II, for example, although you know, in my opinion, World War II was another hoax, but the people living in it, in like London, in the Blitz, they said it was the best time of their lives when they were all in the underground tunnel, you know, hiding from a bomb. They met the love of their lives. They were dancing. They were all in there by candlelight eating biscuits. There was connection. Stuff happened. The illusion creates stuff. It's important. I'm merely saying once you know it's there, you can play with it a little bit and have more, maybe bend reality to your will a little bit once you know it's there. But for most people, they fucking need it. So I don't think we want to shut it down, because what will there be? What will there be?
Yeah.
As much as we hate the government and stuff and all this kind of shit, who builds the aeroplane that we fly in across the world to go to nice places? You never built it. I never built it. I couldn't build a plane. Someone's built me a plane. I can go and travel around the matrix in. That's pretty fucking cool, right? If we shut down the government, how would I get to Hawaii if I want to go for a little? I would never be able to go and go ride there on a horse. That might be fun. Well, that might be really fun. I might die on the way, get bitten by a snake and shit. But anyway, so there's a weird kind of balance going on, isn't it? Where yeah, it's extremely boring to the point where people are on medication to deal with their depression, but there is something in the background that's kind of scaring people and gives them something to think about, other than looking at themselves in the mirror, right? A lot of the distraction distracts people from doing the work and actually facing themselves in the mirror, right? The shadow work.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm thinking about a lot of things as you're sort of talking, right? Like, the thing about the airplanes, right? Like, it's cool. We can go to all of these places, but the fact that we have to go there in airplanes then opens up the question of, well, where are we actually going? Right? I'm thinking that. And then on the other hand, I'm also thinking about this conversation I had with Danny, right? We recorded a show on Saturday. I'll probably put it out on Thursday. But she is, very much of the opinion that she wants to withdraw from all of this to the maximum extent. I think, like, if I'm understanding correctly, she still wants to write her books and do her work and use said system to get that out there and be able to do those things. But like, she doesn't want to get on an airplane because she doesn't want to go anywhere where there's a surveillance camera, and she doesn't want to use a QR code, and she doesn't. And like, sure, like a lot of those things, like, I don't like them either, right? Like, there's nothing I find more offensive than like pulling up to a restaurant. There's a win to get a food to go, or to even to eat there, but it's not the kind of restaurant that has table service, or even it is kind, and they're making you do this anyway. And there's a perfectly good person standing there that I could order from, but they're telling me I have to order from my phone, right? Like, I won't do that. Like, I don't like that. I'm not doing that. But there's, almost no conditions under which I would be willing to say, yeah, I'm not going to travel anymore, or I'm not going to go someplace if there happens to be a camera there, right? Because I want to go places and do things and have adventures. And if there's like, yeah, it's my preference to do it a way that doesn't feel so invasive. And if those businesses exist, I will support them if they're reasonable and whatever. But I'm not like unwilling to have my adventures in order to avoid some of these things that in and of themselves may be just as fake as their reality that they support, right?
Yeah.
But I understand why she feels that way, right? Like, I get it. Like, it does feel like there's this never-ending series of like new things that you have to do and this, that, or blah, 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 right? But yeah, like, I also like some of the stuff that it enables is cool. And I agree with you. Like, even though I feel exhausted sometimes, at this point, I'm still more intrigued with it than I am disillusioned. But
Yeah. Weirdly enough, the only time I've ever had that QR menu thing was the was the was the restaurant opposite that Ghost City, which is run by which is on the Turkish side, right? Now, what do you think of in your head when you think of Turkey? Okay, it's a modern place. Turkey's a modern country, but you like to think it's a little bit slightly behind the West. Nah,
right.
man. A Turkish restaurant on the island of Cyprus said to me, "We don't have menus. You've got to use your phone."
That's the
I said, "I
only
don't."
time you've ever had that?
Only time I've ever had that. I said, "I don't have a phone, so he got it up on his phone and that. There's always a way around. He got it up on his
Right.
phone." Um, I'm 50-50 about the whole kind of the whole. I'm not, a 15-minute city thing that everyone's like worrying about, right?
Yes.
I don't think that's I'm not saying that's a good thing, but what is the other option? Like, surely humanity has to move in a direction, right?
Right.
I don't think we can just stay here in this fake jobs economy thing. Like, the whole reason we got here is a continuous kind of fictitious thing we're all chasing.
Right.
The Industrial Revolution, repairing ourselves after World War II. There has to be some bullshit thing that you need to build buildings for, you need to get bank loans for. These buildings that we're in right now are not just going to last forever. We can't just carry on working fake jobs and just stay here stagnant. There has to be a future. And yeah, we all agree it's very annoying they're pushing the whole electric vehicle thing. And we probably don't want that. But we have to move on to something. There has to be a change. There has to be a new direction. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, you have to, I mean, this, in my head, in some ways, that's really what the ghost city in Japan exists for, was to give some people something to do, right?
Yeah.
Like something to build. There is like a lot of people needing jobs, and that created an economy for a period of time, and it also creates a narrative that is the possible future, right? So I think that's what a lot of this is getting people to participate in narrative building, and then whoever tells the most convincing narrative, that will be the one that we most collectively move towards, and the other details will sort of fall by the wayside or become part of like the quaint past or whatever it is. I mean, as far as the 15-minute cities things goes, like I have a couple of thoughts about that, right? I think that people are confused as to like what those actually are and what they would really look like. And I think some of that confusion is intentional, and some of it is just in the way that like we've been trained to think of like encroaching tyranny or something. But there's this shopping center, there's this kind of planned community here in Austin that I've talked about. I don't know if you ever saw that show I did with like Chad Stumpke and Mark Steves and Homie Romy about esoteric Austin. And I talked about the gateway experience to them. And I sort of took them, there's this area up in North Austin called the Domain, right? And let me just see if I can give you like a good heads. Let me look and see if I can find like here's the site map of like of what it is, right? But it essentially was like a shopping center that had apartments, but now at this point it's like considered its own neighborhood, right? So there's corporations there, there's shopping, there's apartments, there's hotels, there's all kinds of things. There's little trails, there's, you know, whatever it is. It's got a very Legoland feel to it, right? Like it doesn't feel like what we would think of as an organic neighborhood, although I'm sure that the neighborhoods that we all like when they first got built, people who lived in older neighborhoods thought those looked like Legoland or whatever, right? Like I think it's just this ongoing perpetuation of how it feels when something new that you're not used to or whatever comes in. But to me, like when people talk about Austin becoming a 15-minute city, like I don't think that means that there's going to be like a dome or like a physical electric barrier around downtown Austin where you're not allowed to travel outside of it. That I don't think that's what's going to happen, though I do think that's what people think is going to happen. No.
That's what the truthers think. They think there's going to be a big giant mechanical robot there with machine guns.
No.
Return to
what there's going to be is the Domain. Like if you were to go into there's more, the Domain is like a, you know, probably maybe mile square kind of, I don't know how much land it takes up, right? But it's basically like you know, what you would normally think of as a neighborhood, but like it's all developed in this way where it's like there's, you know, lots of shops and restaurants and hotels and apartments, but like the apartment buildings are like right in the middle where the shops and restaurants are. It's not like, oh, you have your shopping district and then farther away you have the place where people live. It's all intermixed, right? So when I was there one day, I had to run up there to get something because there's like a few stores that only have a branch or whatever in there, right? And I realized, oh, this is a 15-minute city, right? You have basically everything that most people would need in here. There's a grocery store, right? There's lots of restaurants. There's outdoor play spaces. There's movie theaters. There's bowling alleys. There's social spaces. There's gyms. There's all kinds of stuff, right? And it's all within this area that would take like between 3 and 5 minutes to drive across, or 15 to 20 minutes to walk from one side to the other side, right? But like theoretically, you could keep yourself busy inside there for an almost endless period of time, right? Like there's lots of places a person could work if they work outside the home. And certainly there's great internet if they work inside the home. There's enough restaurants that you could probably go weeks or months without having to eat in the same one. There's all this kind of stuff, right? So what I see, the way that they would sell people on living in this kind. It's a way of sort of like centralizing people so that like, okay, the people who live in here, we know that this is where they spend most of their time. We know who they interact with. We know what they buy. We know, right? Let's just say that during the next lockdown, right? They kind of sell people on the idea that like if you, or maybe this becomes, there's another one of these being built in town here called Mueller, right? That like, okay, the upside of living in a community like this is the properties aren't as big, you don't have as much of a carbon footprint, blah, 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 blah. But also, if COVID lockdown, if there was to be something like that happened again, right, that you would be, the people who lived inside of these would be able to interact freely. You'd be able to go to the shopping, go to the movies, go to the restaurant, go to the work that's inside of there or whatever. So it basically, let's say there was COVID again, well, we'd have 10 days where nobody left their apartment or their whatever, but after that you can interact freely until for the whole duration of the pandemic, right? And so that feels less restrictive to a lot of people than what they just lived through. Right. So like they're going to get people to live in these more and more sort of centralized communities where everyone's on the same Wi-Fi, the same internet, the same, going to the same sort of like company stores and whatever it is as, one way that people live. And it's going to be like they're going to do things to sell people on it because that's just the nature of the way the direction our reality is going in. I don't think they're going to force people to do that. People will be enticed into that. Living not in one of those might be a little bit more complicated or expensive or whatever it is, but like the outliers and the wealthy people will all not live in that enclosed little thing, right? So the people who, it's going to be a choice. Right. And sure, there will be people say, well, that's the only place I could get a job, or that's the only place where I could like afford living if something like that were to happen again, and this, that, or the other thing. But that's what it's going to be. It's not going to be like UN guards outside of, on one side of the river in Austin telling people they can't cross the river.
No.
Right. But having people think that that's what it's going to be creates a lot of conversation, creates a lot of economies, creates a lot of other stuff to work with. It creates this sort of like energetic materium to propel future building as well, right? You need some friction. You need people, you need some resistance in order to prop something up.
Yeah, and then when they finally get their 15-minute city that doesn't have UN guards, they've had some sort of victory.
Correct. Right. No, this is actually really wonderful. Yes.
When it was never a thing anyway, right? Like a Texas two-step or what they call it, right?
Yeah.
Of the mind. But, yeah. I mean, listen, I can see the dystopian side of it all, but I also think like, what's the other? Even in the UN documents, it says there will be people that won't want to participate and will just live in like rural, rustic villages and stuff. So there'll always be a choice. I just don't understand like I guess again I'm attacking the truthers. I don't understand what they want because they keep saying what they don't want, but what do they really want?
Right.
Because if we stay where we are right now is pretty terrible with just nothing but fake jobs. And I just don't, like they hate UBI, right? If you ever bring up the topic of UBI, they hate it.
Right.
They've got this idea that every Monday you're going to have to go down and get a vaccination in your neck and then you won't get your check. And it's like, that's not what UBI is ever meant about, right? The whole point is to get rid of the government and the bureaucracy and use that money to just give people be adults. But they think that, right? And that's fair enough. Okay, you've been tricked into thinking it's something very evil. Okay. But so you want to stay here. You're fighting to stay where we are right now. Where you're on UBI, you just have to pretend to go to work to get it. You're already in a 15-minute city, but you think because you're driving a petrol car, it's somehow different than the one in Austin where you're meant to go on like an electric scooter or something. What? I just don't like. Surely humanity has to go somewhere. Like, surely someone has to come along, and there has to be a new project.
Well, regarding even during lockdown, and even right now with the political system, right? So, like, I witnessed this quite a bit during the lockdown, right? That people were willing to go to like restaurants that served terrible food, maybe even microwaved food, if they could go there and not wear a mask, right? Or if that restaurant was defying lockdowns and staying open to the public and letting people dine inside anyways, right? So they're going to a place and supporting a business they would normally never support, that makes food that they'd otherwise find inedible, right? That is full of the same chemicals that normally they oppose, because usually they're fighting for organic food also. But because they're like doing the one thing that you want, or whatever it is, suddenly you're on that team, or suddenly like this becomes a cause that you want to support, or whatever it is, right? And like I saw a lot of that during like lockdown. It's like that was weird to me, right? And then right now, right, it's kind of the same thing with the political scenario, right? Like you have people willing to overlook like horrible things a person says, does, or is committed to, simply because the one thing that you believe that was your most important topic for a period of years or whatever, they happen to be like good on that. But like, what is the good of what is the point of living in a world where you don't have to have a vaccination if you have to live with apartheid, right? It never goes the step further, right? Like it's very easy to get people to reveal what things they're willing to overlook if you just throw them a bone, or trick them into thinking that something is important, that it's not even that it's not important. Sure, being able to freely move about and do the things that you want to do is important, right? But like you never cared about going to a restaurant that served shitty food before the lockdown with all the rules. So why suddenly now with lockdown and the rules does going to a restaurant that serves so shitty food suddenly become the panacea of everything you should do, right? So it's also a form of like moving people around and kind of seeing like how easy it is to trick people into thinking that this is something they want, or that's something they don't want, or they're willing to give this up for that, or vice versa, right? And I'm certainly not immune to this myself. I certainly probably have fallen into some of these things myself.
Oh yeah. There's a whole reverse psychology. It's double crossing of things, making people go to a destination they think they're fighting against and whatever. But if you were to play the thought experiment, you're in the Illuminati now. You're in the Illuminati, and you've got the task of dealing with the masses and humanity. What would you do? Like, you've got to deal with all the masses. Like, what are you going to do? Like, I sometimes I'm a bit of an Illuminati sympathizer, and like, fucking hell, they've got a hard job, man, managing all these fucking clowns.
We should make you a t-shirt to wear that says Illuminati sympathizer. Right? You can it can be you, because you're a big guy, right? Holding up the pyramid with the eye on it, right? Just like muscling it up, holding it up for them, right?
You don't have? Do you have an answer, Emily? Like, right now, you're in the Illuminati. You're part of the 20 committee. What are you gonna do with humanity for the next 50 years? Have you got a plan? No one really, like, you know what I mean? No one's got the answer. No, that's what I'm saying. No one seems to have the answer about, okay, what are we supposed to do here? Like, what could be better without it being too boring?
Right.
We can't make it too boring and too comfortable that people check out. We can't make it too terrifying where we're just killing everyone. Like, how do we keep this energy system flowing at sort of that balance?
Yeah.
It's a big topic. I don't know the answer to that, but I'm pretty sure staying where we are, fighting to stay where we are, where we're all miserable, working shitty fake jobs, I think that's pretty bad. Like, there's got to be something better than that. It has to be something better.
It's kind of like the science of baking, right? Like with cooking, you can just kind of throw things into a pan without measurement or whatever, and at the end there'll be a plate of food, and it'll either taste good or it won't. Some people will think it tastes good, some people won't, and whatnot. But like with baking, if you stray too far from the science of how you mix this with that, then like the thing doesn't even become a thing, right? So it's like trying to come up with the recipe of what you're talking about, where like, oh, the cake is like a little bit crisp but chewy on the inside, and the frosting, whatever it is, right? Like it's a little bit more like baking than like cooking, how to manage the world, I guess. Right? I don't know. So with all of these things in mind, what, if anything, different than what was going on October 6th do you think is going on in the Middle East?
Emily, give me 1 minute. Sorry, 1 minute.
See, it's going to take him 1 minute to cook up an answer. I stumped him with that one. No, I'm just kidding. Sounds like someone's come to talk to him. I think he does the shows from his car. So if he has to be moving where he's parked or something like that, then that may be what's going on. I'm going to push pause. Oh, he's back. He's back. That was quick.
Let's start recording. Yeah.
Okay. I'm recording.
You are?
Yeah.
I don't think you are.
I am. See, in the left-hand corner, it says recording.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. They locked that car park at 7 o'clock. So I have to move my car. I've been locked in there overnight. What changed?
You just got trafficked, Les.
Got human trafficked out of yeah. What the question was, what changed with overnight regarding the Palestine-Israel thing?
Like what, if anything, at this point, right? With all the things we've talked about here, and I recommend, and I will include the links to your videos and your thread so people can go and see how you were like very easily with just a few dollars and a cell phone in 2 hours able to produce basically a wartime propaganda video on your own, right?
Emily, did you like that?
Yeah.
Thread then? That never got a lot of traction. I thought people would be very blown away by that one, but it never really got a lot of traction. I think people were very confused, like they thought it was real, or
people are very confused, right? Like that's the whole, like there's one comment on part 1 of your limbo video, and I think it's exactly right. And the guy was basically like, I don't know if I should be happy or sad that the world is fake. Right. And I think most people don't like that level of confusion. So they'll just dip right back into one of the 3 or 4 versions of the narrative that that there's a lot of collective conversation about. Right.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that from my own experience that people will like illusion warfare. They'll like the double cross. They'll like it for about 5 minutes. And then they'll just be like, yeah, it answers too many questions. I'm going to go back to now Truth or World, where it's satanic pedophiles are down the end of my road nailing children to a pentagram reality. They want to live in that one. They prefer that one. They don't. Illusion warfare answers too many questions for them, and it's boring because they aren't questions that they don't, that once they get, they don't like, because there's no more excitement about it.
I think that's the one, like that's the whole, like I find myself with like people around me who I've been close to and who have been friends and support systems and helped me sort some things out for myself and help me on my path that I'm still on. I don't have all the answers yet, right? But a lot of times, like there are certain people that I don't really tell the full extent of like my current beliefs about the, certain narratives, right? Because I feel like they would be like offended that I've abandoned belief in the binding religion of we live in this horrible world where satanic pedophiles that, are doing, there's all of these terrible people, all of the politicians, all of the celebrities, anybody that has any money or notoriety at all, they're all involved in this, absolute just feast on anything, like whatever it is, right? And I don't know if I'm just at one particular stop on my tour or if like my sort of moving away from that as a narrative that really makes any sense is like a more permanent position. I don't know. I'm still on my path. Right. But yeah, like it's just for some reason that is preferable. Right. Like what you're talking about is certainly far more humorous. Right. And it creates opportunities for adventure and imagination and whatever. But there's like something more comforting about believing the other thing. Right. I don't know why that is. I don't know why we take comfort in the thing that we say we oppose so much. Like, think about people who make their life like being an activist against, you know, exploiting workers or something like that. The exploitation can never stop, or you won't have anything to do.
Yeah, the crusade, the
Yeah,
something to crusade for. The holy war it never ended, man. It never ended back when they said it ended. The holy war for Jerusalem still goes on. Give you new things now to crusade for.
right.
But,
You know,
but what about the truther community is they just switch every week. They'll watch the latest fucking YouTube video and then that's it. They're now crusading for the latest well-made YouTube video they've seen or the latest TikTok video they've seen. And it'll be a complete contradiction of the last one
the
they
last
watched.
one. Yeah.
And now that person is now a shill for not going along with a new thing. If you don't go along with a new thing, you're now a shill. You're a Jew. Someone called me a Jew or a Mason the other day because
You're a Jewish Mason. Even worse, Les, you're a Jewish Mason, like me.
I mean, so I don't know. Them lot are. I don't know. I noticed that Christianity is back on the rock. The somehow being funneled back into the Bible is now back on the rise. It looks like somehow it looks like the conspiracy truther world is now like the Vatican 3.0, right?
Right.
It's very much like they've somehow taken control of it, and somehow they've managed to make the answer to all of it the Bible.
Right. Well, if you think about like there was warning signs of this like way back when I like, I guess once it wasn't just some fleeting phase that I was in, the conspiracy thing, like I pretty quickly immediately started to notice how comment sections and message boards were like filled with people who are religious, right? And that who would decide that they were listening to someone or not listening to someone based on whether or not that person was Christian, and how many people would, like how interwoven religion and Christianity is into the truther scene or the alternative information community. Like even if it's under the disguise of New Ageism or whatever it is, but yeah, I mean, I guess so that just like every other anything I've ever been involved in, like my lack of religiosity makes me a heretic, right? Or whatever it is. So, I had.
They think that Christianity is like the remedy for like the WEF. And when you try and explain, like, no, the Christianity it was the first ever WEF. It's the same thing.
Right.
They won't. They'll go into a rage, man.
Yeah.
No, they're not. They're not open. They can't be. They're not very open. They're not very open to new ideas. They can't entertain them. See, someone said that to me. Anything, I'd be like, yeah, I'm open to it. I'm not on board with it. Yeah, I'll entertain it, sure. But they are just, it's a boom, visceral hatred comes your way for suggesting this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's a huge amount of discomfort, right? Like one of the things that Laura will say, with some regularity, like it's not like a daily talking point, but it certainly comes up somewhere every couple of weeks or month or whatever is, because she used to be a very religious person, right? And now she really doesn't know what is real. So there's that discomfort of questioning whether or not God is real. And then the discomfort of if God isn't real, like what does she think about all the things she believed before? And B, how do I live in a world where that isn't, right? So there's all of these questions that start to come up, and I watch her be in a lot of discomfort about it. right? And I consider myself to be a person like I navel gaze a lot. I get into thinking about things in specific ways or whatever it is. But the idea of whether God does or doesn't exist, like, it doesn't really change anything for me, right? Like, I'm not strongly pro God or strongly anti God. Like, it definitely does feel like there's something more that animates this place than just we live in this like material world and whatever. It feels like there's some sort of energetic force that is hard to explain, but I don't need that to be God, or I don't need that to be loving or hostile or whatever people think of that stuff is, right? But I was raised without religion, right? And so, like, it seems that most people in this country and certainly in this information community were raised with that. They were raised with that in the same way that they were raised with like a mother and a father and a house and school, right? And if you remove that as one of the pillars, everything else feels like it's collapsing for them, and that feels uncomfortable, right? And so I think that is what that is. Like, I see, like, we have a lot of the same like things in life that make us uncomfortable. Like, sure, it's a different set of things that might make her uncomfortable or me, but like they're kind of similar, except for that one, right? Like, I don't know that I need something to believe in. I just need to not be bored. Like you, right? I need to not be bored. And whatever the source of not boredom is, maybe that's good enough for me. And like, I don't need some guiding thing to believe in to sort of move forward, right? So yeah.
It's big in America, right? Yeah, like you said, it's way bigger in America. The sort of like framework of Christianity, yeah, way bigger in America than it is over here. Um, yeah, so yeah, again, is that another loop? If they loop people back into religion again, is it another? I don't know. Is it a step back? Is it a Texas two-step? Is it a back? I don't know. Don't know. We have to see with that one. But the current Israel-Palestine thing, it's definitely flaring up the Abrahamic factions, right? I mean, there's the kind of like the communists are fighting the street with the Zionists and over for these stupid fucking posters they're putting up everywhere. Again, that's illusion warfare, isn't it? Just putting up.
Fascinating, isn't it fascinating how, like, whatever we think is real or fake, or if it's totally fake or totally real, that there are so many more people willing to protest about something that has little or nothing to do with them, and right, than about the things that impact their life every day. Like, I'm not for protesting. I'm not a person that thinks like protesting is helpful, but it is fascinating. Like, I have seen some of those videos, and sure, they could be fake, right? But hundreds of thousands of people out in every city, at these Free Palestine rallies, and like, you couldn't get a few hundred people to protest lockdowns.
Right. Or they want they want to free Palestine from Israel, right, but they don't want to free the USA from Britain.
Correct. Yes. Right. Or from their own government or anything like that. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's very weird.
Yeah. Again, it's more humiliation, isn't it? Just showing how easily they can make these folks, whatever you want to call them, Westworld robots. Maybe they're real. I don't know, but they can just make them like react right on cue. Back to Q theory. They can make them just partake in some stupid crusade that is ridiculous when you actually look into it. Like, what are you actually crusading for? You don't even know. There's plenty of clips of people looking stupid, right? When they say we'll point it out on a map and they can't do it. Yeah, but I would say a lot of that is real. A lot of these uni students are quite stupid. They'll rally for anything, won't they?
So the only what?
Yeah.
The only thing
over here in the UK, we've got so many towns or cities. The only thing that gives that city an economy is the university there. So it doesn't fucking matter that they're not going to get a job out of the degree. The fact that there's thousands of them there that turn up for 3 years of uni and are given university money, which is just another form of UBI. So when they go to the coffee shops, they go to their stupid taco restaurant and they spend the money, they create the economy. This is yet again, it's another UBI in disguise. But yet again, you can't say that to people. You're already on UBI. You're already in a 15-minute city. Oh no.
University is definitely a 15-minute city.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, even the term university, like one verse, like there's like sounds like a chant, like a mantra.
Yeah.
Like we're just gonna, by the time you're done with this, we're all saying the same line. Right? It's kind of like if you listen to what the epitome of what Google should be is that there should only be one answer. If you do a search in there, only one answer should come up, the right one. Right? It's like that same kind of thing.
Monotheistic kind of monothink.
Right.
Yeah.
One verse, one line.
I mean, that's the true religion, isn't it? This black cube. That's the real religion everyone worships right now. I guarantee you, every diehard Christian, Muslim, or Jew, or Hindu, or whoever spends more time on the black cube worshipping that idol than they do their own one they claim to be fighting for. Because what is worship really? Time and attention given to the thing, right? And this black cube here in front of us, what we're communicating right now, that's the religion of the black cube.
So what's one thing that almost every university has in the middle of it?
In the middle, I don't know. I've never really been to university.
So every university has something called the quad. It is like the central courtyard of the university, right? That the university is sort of built around, and there's different ones that are more ornate, but it's essentially a cube in the middle of whatever it is, right? With 4 angles around it, right? And some have these ornate paths that go through it or whatever it is, but essentially it's a school built around a central cube or a central square, a quadrangle. Sometimes it's more, right? Even ones that seem to have more than 4 angles, they still call it a quad, right?
Yeah.
Like here's the square, and there's all these lines and connectivity things going through it and all sorts of stuff around it, right? But essentially that's the basis of every university is the quad, the square.
Yeah, and then there's the classic old one that's going around. They all wear the black cube on their head when they graduate, don't they? And
yep.
Yeah. Black cube. Yeah. That's the new religion, man. Like that's what people worship, the black cube.
Yeah.
Black mirror, whatever you want to call it. The hypno rectangle, whatever the fuck you want
to
call it thing. But that's what people are now. And you can't, again, people don't want to admit that to themselves, right?
Yeah.
Going to church for 1 hour on a Sunday is somehow in their heads more than the 40 hours they spend staring at this, Netflix or whatever.
Yeah. All right. My butt is getting tired. Let's call it a day for this time, and we'll have our regular chat again next month. I always enjoy talking with you. I would much rather do it in a cafe that didn't have a QR code or a bar, right? And one day that will be. You're one of the people I look forward to meeting the most, Les. So whether it be over here or over there, may it happen in 2024.
Yeah, it will. I think you're going to be disappointed as you think I'm like this 7-foot God look, hunk of a man, handsome, But yeah, man, we'll definitely, next year, yeah. I can't go to America because I got a criminal record.
You're not. Or
I have to go appeal. I have to go to the American embassy, pay 500 quid, and then they have to decide. Apparently, then again, I've also heard people with criminal records just say they went and they got through. So I don't know. Yeah, again, is it more bullshit?
Right.
Is it real? I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I still, I definitely think that 2024 is the last time. I don't think there's any chance of a Nadal Djokovic matchup past 2024. So if Wimbledon is going to play into the experience, then it has to be this year, right? Yeah, I mean, I think Djokovic will be around for a while, but I think if Nadal is able to get out on the court again, it's going to be this year and 2024 and no other. So it's so interesting how my I was such a Nadal fan, and I just I don't know if I can get it up for him one more time. Right. Like, even though I didn't like the things he was saying about Djokovic during the Australian Open in 2022, it was fascinating to watch the way he won that. And I did feel, torn and happy for him and But whatever whatever has happened sort of since then, like, I feel like almost like and it makes no sense. Like inside, I feel like this loyalty to the way things always were, and Emily always cheered for Nadal. But like, in another way, it's like he's like a feeble old man whose body is falling apart, who's like said some shitty things and done some shitty things. And while he may be a warrior on the court, he doesn't seem to be moral in real life. So why do I, but it's weird. Like I that pulls at my heartstrings, right? Like I have no conflict about my feelings about Djokovic, but Djokovic was not always one of my favorite tennis players, right? Like he's grown on me, and it's been interesting to sort of go through the falling out of love with Nadal. So I don't even know if I care about seeing them play anymore at Wimbledon, or if that's just like a memory I'm holding on to. You know what I mean? A memory I never had that I'm holding on to. But
the gods are flawed.
Totally.
That's what I think. All the gods are flawed.
Gods are flawed.
That's what you said. Yeah. But I think, even just the experience of going to Wimbledon, right? Would be worth it.
Yeah, I definitely want to go to Wimbledon for sure. So, all right, my friend, let's wrap it up. Thanks everybody for joining us. We will see you next time.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.